Hey guys! This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was Smart and a Seal Master. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Chapter 28, Fights 3 and 4. Kakashi sat in his box watching the first two fights attentively. Next to him were the again retired Sandaime Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi and the Kazekage of Suna. Of course, there were also two bodyguards for each kage. The participants were the best of the new generation from Konoha. There were of course still deficits that needed to be worked out, but considering that all three teams that had passed the second exam from Konoha were the three rookie teams, it spoke a clear language. Konoha's upcoming youth was stronger than all previous years. Sakura had performed great against Kiba. She had come a really long way since he had taken her on his team. The former fangirl could now truly be called a proud kunoichi from Konoha. The training she had done with Shizen had brought her a major step forward. Kiba was strong, but he needed to plan his battles better and not let himself or Akamaru open for sneak attacks. He wouldn't get promoted this time, but there was a lot of potential for the future. Kurenai could train her team more till the next exams, and then the promotion was a serious possibility if his improvement kept on. Sakura was a definite Chunin candidate. She had planned properly, not let her opponent use his strengths against her, and taken out his partner early on. She hadn't dragged the fight out for a long time, but countered her opponent's strengths in smart ways before landing the decisive blow. If tasked to lead a team, she would find ways to keep them out of danger until they could succeed with little to no loss. In the second fight, it showed that the academy needed to give fangirls a harder time, and ensure that they at least needed to build up physical strength. Ino had come around from what Asuma had told him, but contrary to learning jutsus, if you have enough chakra, you didn't get over years of neglecting physical working out, not to mention dieting, in a few months. Ino was the one that had had most problems with the resistance seals and had progressed slower than her teammates. Kakashi had seen the same with Sakura, but his merciless attitude and training regime had got her farther than Ino had come. Not to mention that Naruto and Sasuke were training nuts, and Sakura had to push herself more to not fall too far behind them. Shikamaru and Choji weren't as ambitious, and therefore they progressed slower. Not to mention that Ino had the problem that Hinata's taijutsu style was hard to go up against. There was a good reason that the Hyuga clan was feared. Ino's strategy had been a sound one, and it might have worked if not for Hinata's jutsu and trickery. And seeing how Hinata had managed to combine water manipulation with a new gentle fist technique was inspiring. Hinata had used her advantages well and acted when she saw an opening. He didn't know that Kurenai had taught her to combine genjutsu with gentle fist, but it was a great technique. He could only hope that the Hyuga clan would see it similarly. Hinata deserved to be praised for that fight. Your genin seemed to be really good this year, Hokage-sama. The Kazekage complimented. I wouldn't have expected to find this many strong kunoichi in particular. Thanks, what can I say? This year's candidates are very good. I'm of course especially proud of my own student Sakura. Kakashi replied with a nice smile. I'm looking forward to seeing what the other two can do. If you saw fit to reveal Naruto Namake's heritage, you have to be convinced that nobody could kill the boy easily. And the reputation of the Uchiha clan will be tested for the first time in years again. The Kazekage mentioned. That's true, but I'm sure that Naruto and Sasuke are up to the challenges before them. I hope that your son Kankuro is well prepared. Sasuke really wants to get to the finals to fight against Naruto. Kakashi revealed. He would have to beat Gaara too first, and that is a very difficult task. Gaara is the best genin we have in Suna. The Kazekage boasted. We'll have to wait and see then. Kakashi stated. What do you think about the promotion prospects of the first four? The Inuzuka boy and the Yamanaka girl aren't ready. While the girl had some good techniques and ideas, she lacked stamina to get her safely out of a mission that got difficult. The Inuzuka boy needs to get more control over his temper before he can be trusted with leading a team. The Haruno girl and the Hyuga girl meanwhile are ready, I think. Both showed a good level of skills, some of them unique even in case of the Hyuga girl, I think. And they planned properly to win their fights with little injuries on their parts. Of course, their next fights will also be interesting to see, as the opponents in their first fights were the ones they could prepare for best. The following ones will show how well they really prepared and how they react to surprises. The Kazekage answered. That about mirrors my thoughts. Kakashi said, and then they stopped talking as the third fight was about to start. Kankuro knew that he was at a disadvantage. He couldn't really reveal too much about his abilities before the invasion started, but he had been ordered to weaken the Uchiha. So forfeiting wasn't an option. He was only glad that he didn't get the Namikaze boy as his first opponent. That one was strong, there was no question. After the information had been officially confirmed and revealed, new orders had come in. Gaara was to take him out as soon as possible. And if Temari won her fight, she had the same orders that Kankuro had: weaken her opponent. It wasn't a good situation. He knew that he was stronger when he could act from the shadows with his puppets, but he could hold his own in a fight. The one problem was that his opponent was an Uchiha and had the Sharingan. He couldn't fully concentrate on his puppets. Sasuke Uchiha would know soon how he used his puppets, and try to find ways to stop him. And sadly, he had no information to go by about the true strength of the other boy. Well, his best bet was poisoning him early on to make him weaker and slower. The proctor gave the signal to start, and Kankuro let Crow fire a poison gas bomb. To his surprise, not only did his opponent avoid the cloud completely, but was quickly onto him. There was one disadvantage that all puppeteers had to get around, which was that they weren't exactly strong in taijutsu and had little ninjutsu in their repertoire, as they needed their fingers to control their puppets. And right now, he wasn't good enough to control more than one puppet efficiently. He was working on two at the same time, but he hadn't perfected that yet. Against an opponent that was this fast, he was in big trouble. Sasuke didn't need his Sharingan at the moment. He knew about the basic abilities of puppeteers thanks to his training over the last month. Yamato had put him through the grinder, and had not only taught him some very useful techniques to improve his arsenal, he had also drilled him on strategy and efficiency. Puppeteers were dangerous if they had a high number of puppets out and could keep in the background. And you had to look out for poison, as they made their disadvantage in taijutsu up by weakening their opponents, and most of the times killing with one hit. But if you had an open field, a fast opponent was far superior to them, and one thing Sasuke had learned over the month was combining the speed he had trained months to gain under Kakashi-sensei with jutsus. He hadn't learned to do it with high-level ones, but low and middle-level ones were absolutely possible. So when the poison gas bomb flew towards him, he was already moving. Fire release, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Sasuke exclaimed and shot one middle-sized fireball after the other at Kankuro and his puppet. They rained down at his opponent from all sides, and he was hard-pressed to defend against them. Sasuke kept his barrage up for 20 seconds before getting some distance between him and his opponent. He hadn't thought that it would be this easy to win, so he was on guard. What he saw made him look again. There was a heap of ashes and Kankuro next to it on the ground. Weren't puppets made with fire-resistant seals? Naruto had put those on all of their clothes just for training. After all, it was a major disadvantage if you caught on fire, and the fireballs weren't that strong. If the puppet had been burned a bit, and would be black now, he could understand it, but this reeked of a trap. He activated his Sharingan to see if Kankuro had used a substitution and was hiding somewhere. His suspicion was proven right when he couldn't see chakra in Kankuro's body. So Sasuke was on guard when Kankuro tried to pull him under the ground. Sasuke knew that trick from Kakashi-sensei, so he jumped up into the air and directly fired another fireball at the point where Kankuro was in the ground. He couldn't break the ground to force his opponent out, but he could make it massively uncomfortable for him to stay down there. Soon enough, Kankuro jumped out from the ground and Sasuke went after him. Kankuro had put his puppet away to manage to underground hiding jutsu and was now open to attack. Sasuke landed some devastating combos on the black-clad boy and finally kicked him into a tree in the arena. Kankuro fell to the ground, breathing hard and blood coming from his mouth. Hate appeared next to him and checked him. Kankuro is unable to continue. Winner is Sasuke Uchiha, he announced to the cheers of the audience. Kakashi was very pleased how easily Sasuke had taken out Kankuro. From what he had seen, Kankuro had at least suffered a few broken ribs, and that would make him incapable of participating in the upcoming invasion. Not to mention that as the son of the Kazekage, he would make a valuable hostage after it. He would have the medics sedate him, supposedly to make the healing process easier. Right now they were carrying him out of the arena while Sasuke gave a short wave to the spectators while walking back to the competitor's box. An impressive fight, Kakashi, Sarutobi said. Yes, your student showed great skill. Kankuro will have to become a lot better until he can fight on that level, the Kazekage said, frowning. Ah, thank you. I'm proud of him. He showed good strategy and power. It's promising for a possible promotion, Kakashi told them. Indeed, Sarutobi agreed. Your students seem to overall dominate their fights. Well, I trained them really hard since I took the team. They all learned a lot, Kakashi said proudly. Naruto and Sakura congratulated Sasuke to his performance. You really showed them how it's done, Sakura said. Yes, good work. Naruto complimented. Thanks, but he wasn't that strong. I hope my next opponent is stronger. I really want to get a good idea where I stand. Sasuke told them. The other two nodded, knowing that it was true. With just one puppet, Kankuro wasn't as dangerous as a puppeteer could truly be. Choji stood opposite of Gaara, not really sure how to go about this fight. He had no idea of what Gaara was capable of, but he was determined to do his best. Ino had already lost her fight to Hinata, and Team 7's members had both won their matches. He wanted to at least not shame his team and sensei. His opponent looked bored at having to fight him. The proctor gave the signal to start, and Choji found himself directly activating his family's jutsu. The only information that he had been able to get about Gaara was that he was dangerous, and had no qualms with killing his opponents. Kiba had warned him about that, as Team 8 had seen how Gaara had coldly dispatched of a team from AIM, so not getting caught in his techniques was vital. Choji expanded his body and went into his human meat tank to get a hit on Gaara before he could act. To his surprise, he found himself stopped by some kind of wall. He tried again twice from other directions, but every time he was stopped. He knew he had to change plans, so he rolled away and then returned to his normal form. Gaara simply stood in his former position, not really doing much. You don't satisfy, mother, Gaara said darkly. Choji had no idea what this was about. Was Gaara mad? What had his mother to do with anything? Around Gaara there were tendrils of sand hovering. So probably some sand jutsu had stopped his attack. Well, sand wasn't a normal jutsu base. Probably he had needed a lot of chakra into it to let it react like it did. It was too bad that he didn't have any jutsus that drained chakra from a place. So what could be done against sand in general? Before he could think things through, he had to dodge an attack from Gaara's sand. He ran away, now happy that his team had got the resistance seals after a month of training, as otherwise he knew he wouldn't have been able to avoid getting caught in the sand. The main question now was, how could he hit Gaara? His strongest taijutsu move had been blocked, and he needed time to get it ready. Time he suspected he wouldn't have against this opponent. He knew a few ninjutsus. His element was lightning, but they were still too weak to have a real chance against Gaara, it seemed. Still, he wanted to do his best, so he would see where he got. He made 2 clones on the run and hoped that Gaara would at least fall for them a moment, so that he could ready his jutsu. He better tried his better one first. It would cost a lot of chakra, but he knew that with this opponent he wouldn't have a chance otherwise. Hiding among clones won't save you. I'll quickly dispatch you, Gaara said. Choji meanwhile was farthest away from Gaara compared to his clones and managed to get the hand signs done. Lightning release, lightning arrow. Choji exclaimed and fired an arrow of lightning at Gaara. He hoped it would hit, but there was a good chance, as Gaara hadn't moved from his position at all during their fight. A wall of sand quickly intercepted the arrow, and there was no damage done to Gaara at all. Choji cursed under his breath. He had expected a bit more effect. From the information he had got from Asuma Sensei, earth jutsus were inferior to lightning jutsus. But obviously sand was either different, or Gaara's jutsus were at a much higher level than Choji's. Well, sand also turned to glass if it was heated massively, or turned to mud if you drenched it in water. The problem was that Choji had neither in his arsenal. There was no way that a weapons barrage would get through that sand either, and he only had 2 explosive tags on him. He wrapped one around a kunai handle and then tried to mix it unnoticed under a barrage of his weapons. Sadly, Gaara still didn't need to move, as his sand intercepted everything Choji threw at him. The bomb hit and exploded, but in the end there was no damage to Gaara. Choji raised his hand. I forfeit. I can clearly not get through the defense he has. Trying that at my current level would be stupid, Choji declared. Winner by forfeit, Gaara Sabaku. Hate announced. There was little applause from the ranks. While Choji had shown a few good techniques, there had been no real action. Kakashi knew that Choji had made the right decision. Gaara was far above his level, and Choji lacked a good way to get through that defense. He also didn't have help in the fight that could make up for Choji's problems or distract Gaara for Choji to get a god hit in. That sand defense was really something else. I was sure this fight would go like this, the Kazekage said smugly. Gaara is simply the best genin we have. Well, his defense with the sand was very impressive, but he didn't show a lot to work with to decide if he deserves to become a Chunin, Kakashi stated. Oh, don't worry about that, he will do that later. No insult to one of your village's clans, but the boy wasn't advanced enough to go up against Gaara. And the Akimikis mostly excel at taijutsu if I remember correctly. A pure taijutsu fighter or one with a few jutsus to support him has no chance, the Kazekage declared. From what they had seen, that statement certainly rang true. But Choji deserved some positive comments in his file for judging a situation properly and retreating as long as he still could. He also seemed to have learned a bit of strategizing, perhaps from hanging out with Shikamaru a lot. With a bit more time, Choji would make a good chunin. Chapter 29. A much expected fight. You could nearly cut the air with a knife. The villagers of Konoha had waited to see this fight for the last month. Nearly none of them had seen one of the competitors in this one since the start of the chunin exams. Many were torn in their feelings. They had hated the boy for years, and now, suddenly, he was revealed to be the son of the man they revered more than nearly any other ninja in their village's history. The only one holding the same amount of positive feelings in their minds was the Shodai Hokage. Naruto Namikaze, formerly known as Naruto Uzumaki, was the container of the Kyuubi, a secret that they couldn't talk about under pain of death. Nearly nobody knew really that much about him. His team had certainly not been around a lot in the village. While those interested in the finalists had looked up the mission history of the teams, there was little to say what kind of missions they had done. Anything beyond C ranks and their number was qualified under orders of the Sandaime Hokage, so while they knew that Team 7 had taken a surprisingly large number of C and D ranked missions, they didn't know much about the abilities of the team that had been trained by the Godame. The other two members of the team had shown impressive skills and creativity. Of course, many thought that even if Naruto was the son of their beloved Yondaime, he couldn't be that strong. Their dislike for him was simply too big. Others reasoned that the dead last of his class couldn't be that impressive. The only ones really interested in seeing how strong the boy really was were the ones from ninja families. Especially the clan ninjas knew that Naruto had hidden his abilities during his time at the academy, and had only stopped doing so after he had graduated completely. Those whose children were part of the training group of the three rookie teams were really looking forward to seeing his true level. Naruto stood calmly opposite Shino. He knew that Shino would have come up with some creative tricks, but it would still not be his most difficult opponent. He had after all researched all the clans of Konoha and knew that for their bugs to pose a real danger to him, they needed to make contact with his skin first, and Shino knew that Naruto knew that point. In their previous spars, Shino had never managed to win against Naruto, but he had been one of the stronger ones. And Shino was very smart, just a bit less than Shikamaru. So this would be interesting. Shino watched Naruto closely. He didn't show an ounce of nervousness. He didn't expect him to do so. Naruto was the strongest of their group, but it would be foolish to expect him to be overconfident. Naruto never messed around in a fight. He even took all their spars and training serious. He was the most difficult opponent in the finals. Not even that Psycho Gaara could change anything about that. After all, getting hits on a mentally insane person was easier than a smart opponent that was fully in control over his impressive set of skills. And Shino seriously doubted that Gaara would stand a chance against Naruto. The proctor gave them the signal to start. Shino had already sent a good number of his bugs to the ground. He needed to set the location to have a chance. He saw Naruto taking his stance. That was the faster of his two styles. That would be a problem. Shino let a flurry of shuriken fly to not let Naruto get into his rhythm too fast. Naruto, as expected, sped to the right, and quickly set to closing the distance between them. Shino just hadn't expected him to be this fast. He must have deactivated at least 2 levels of his resistance seals, and nobody truly knew which level they were normally at, only that Naruto's were years older than theirs and that he had his some levels over them. Shino barely got his defense up before the first hit from Naruto connected. Shino tried blocking and dodging. Sometimes he succeeded, but many hits got through as Shino wasn't the best at taijutsu. Still, he let his bugs use the contact to go over to Naruto. After a fast exchange, Naruto jumped back, and to Shino's surprise he grinned. "Nice try getting your bugs on me, Shino, but I have prepared for this," Naruto said, and activated something that looked like a layer of lightning on his body. Shino saw how his bugs got zapped by the lightning. "I would advise you to find a better way in weakening me. I can zap your bugs easily all day without tiring out," Naruto stated. Shino knew that to be true. Naruto had exceptional chakra reserves, so he had to change tactics. He went through some hand seals, style spikes. Shino exclaimed and kicked the ground with his foot. Naruto had to jump up to avoid getting hit. He dodged the spikes for a while. "Good try, Shino," Naruto complimented when he dodged the last one. "Last time you didn't have this much control over this jutsu." "Thanks, Naruto, but this isn't all I worked on during the last month," Shino said, and gave a mental command which made his bugs break out from the spikes that surrounded Naruto. He had planned to combine 2 attacks for a while now. To be precise, since Naruto had told him that as an Aburame people that knew a bit about Konoha's clans would expect his insect-based attacks. So he had decided to work on some surprise tactics. Earth Spikes was a C-rank jutsu and didn't take too much chakra from him, which was always a problem for an Aburame. But instead of combining his bugs with a weapon like Naruto had once suggested, he had trained them to flow with his earth jutsus. They knew his chakra perfectly after all, so it was no difficulty to make themselves part of his jutsu. So now Naruto was suddenly surrounded by a sphere of Shino's bugs. Still, he was on guard. If there was one opponent that could get out of that attack, it was Naruto. And indeed he soon found himself attacked again by the fast blonde. Impressive, Shino. If I didn't create some clones before my first taijutsu attack on you, your trick would have cost me a lot of chakra, Naruto said after kicking Shino towards the wall of the arena, which Shino just prevented hitting by turning around in the air. So you mastered your shadow clones without a hand sign now. That's something I'll have to keep in mind from now on, Shino analyzed. Not to mention the same seems to hold true for substitution. Very good analysis, Shino. I didn't expect anything less from you, Naruto said before going through a few hand signs of his own. Wind style, tornado prison. Shino suddenly found himself dodging tornadoes coming from all sides. He had to dodge because the one time he tried passing it he got his sleeve shredded. After a few seconds he saw that he was trapped inside of 8 roaring tornadoes. And Naruto wasn't done. Water style, sea of puddles, Naruto said and spit countless water bullets out of his mouth all around him that turned the ground of the arena into a landscape full of countless puddles. Shino wondered what Naruto could have planned with this maneuver. In the Kage box, Kakashi was really impressed with the level the two showed. And not only him, that's really impressive, the Sandaime commented. To hold up one high-level jutsu while performing another, indeed. That's not something you normally find in a genin, not even a chunin. The most many can do is keeping up a basic jutsu like transformation while doing another jutsu. Anything beyond a D-rank jutsu is nearly impossible for most. The Kazekage commented. He's worked a long time to master that, Kakashi said. But Shino also showed some impressive tactics. I think he's also a good candidate for chunin. True. He has a good mind and isn't taking unnecessary risks while still doing his best to hit his clearly stronger opponent, the Sandaime stated. Though I think that the fight will soon be over. Naruto has set the stage for his deciding technique. Shino seemed to have come to the same conclusion as the Sandaime, and raised his hand inside the wind prison. Proctor, I forfeit. I know that with the way the arena looks now, the only thing Naruto has to do is performing one lightning jutsu, which I know he is capable of, to shock me and my bugs into unconsciousness. Shino called out. Winner by forfeit, Naruto Namikaze. Hate declared. First the audience was silent, then loud applause and cheers erupted. The fight had been great, and they had seen two very capable boys. While Naruto had clearly been the stronger one, it had looked as if Shino had had him once with his trap. Naruto deactivated his tornado prison and walked over to Shino to shake his hand. Good fight, Shino, he complimented while Shino took his hand. Likewise, Naruto. It seems I'll have to do a lot more work to catch up to you, Shino stated. Naruto nodded. It wasn't necessary to point out how much training Naruto had done over the years. Damn, he was definitely the dominating one. I've never seen him show off that much in a fight, Sakura commented. True, I wonder how we would do against him, Sasuke mentioned. I fear it would be a really hard fight, Sakura said. While I know that we have grown a lot stronger since the academy, he has done the same and he was leagues ahead of us then. Sasuke hated admitting that, but it was true. He knew that he by now had the strength and skill of a solid chunin. Perhaps some of his skills were scratching low jonin level, but with Naruto he was mostly solid jonin, and in some areas high jonin level. And don't get him started on Fuinjutsu, Naruto was a demon with them, so only one fight left in this round, Sakura said. Do you think Shikamaru will fight properly? Yes, since that simulated mission against Naruto he has seen what can happen if he doesn't. I wouldn't have thought that slacker had it in him, Sasuke replied. Down in the arena, Shikamaru was now facing Temari for the last fight of this round. He could deduct that she was probably using wind jutsus from the war fan on her back. He had asked his dad about known specializations from Suna and had found out that those that had wind element often used suitable weapons to enhance their abilities. War fans required a powerful affinity, and one of the most famous war fan users had been Temari's mother Karura when she had still been an active kunoichi. so Shikamaru had to be on guard. The last fight of the first round of the Chunin exam finals, Shikamaru Nara of Konoha vs Temari Sabaku of Suna. Begin. Hate declared and cleared the arena. Temari didn't waste any time and opened her fan fully and swung it with power, creating a massive gust of wind. Shikamaru quickly took cover behind a tree. Is that all you can do? Hiding? Man, you Konoha ninjas don't seem all that great. Temari taunted. Troublesome. Shikamaru mumbled. He really didn't want a long fight. He wanted to get this over with and preferably without getting hit too much. He had a plan, but it would take some time to implement it. Well, time to start. He made the standard seal used for the shadow possession jutsu, and hoped that Temari hadn't done as much research as he had. Sadly, it seemed she had, and she was running away from his shadow, trying to get enough distance between her and the shadow. Shikamaru decided to use that and pretended that his shadow couldn't reach farther than 10 meters. She even drew a line onto the ground, measuring the distance. Perfect, so that is the limit of your shadow. As long as I stay out of it, I don't have to worry too much, Temari said. Shikamaru kept his poker face. He started throwing a flurry of weapons, which were all reflected by Temari with weaker wind boosts. They now lay around her with perhaps a meter distance for the closest ones. Throwing weapons at a wind user is useless. You don't seem too bright not realizing that. Temari taunted again, but Shikamaru knew that he had as good as one. His kunai were special and he had got them specifically for fighting long-range fighters. His shadow jutsus were mostly mid-range right now, and he first needed to increase his chakra reserves before he could use them more efficiently. He calculated the distance of the closest kunai and was satisfied. His plan could start. He sent his shadow off again, and unnoticed by Temari he had it connect with each of the special kunais. When his shadow reached the line she had drawn, it barely crossed it at first, making up the distance. He had stepped forward and she retreated by that much. Then he struck, letting his shadow race forward quickly and connect with hers. Finally, the shadow possession jutsu is complete. Shikamaru commented. But how? Even with the lesser distance I should have been far enough away. She asked, shocked. A true ninja never reveals his secrets, and while our villages may be allied, it's better to not reveal secret techniques, especially not at the beginning of a competition where I have to face the toughest opponent out of the whole group next. Shikamaru stated. You think you've already won? Temari asked angrily. I don't think so, I know. Shikamaru said and lifted his hands, which made Temari lift hers in the same fashion, still holding her fan in one of them. Now you see I can make you mimic my movements thanks to my jutsu. If I have you hit yourself over the head with your war fan, you'll get a bad headache and pass out, so if you want to avoid that, give up. Temari was clearly trying to break out of his jutsu, but it was impossible for her. Ugh, shit. She cursed. Fine, I can think of better things to do than nursing a headache. Proctor, I forfeit. Winner by forfeit, Shikamaru Nara. Hate declared. The audience clapped. This had been a short fight, but it had been a good one with the winner outsmarting his opponent. The ninjas in the audience, especially Asuma, were very impressed with the display of Shikamaru. He had quickly and efficiently taken out his opponent, and if he had been tasked to capture his opponent for interrogation he would have done perfectly. The Kages were really pleased with the last fight. While the Kazekage was disappointed by how quickly Shikamaru had caught Temari, at least she wasn't really injured and could still play her part in the planned invasion. The two Hokages would have wished that Shikamaru had gone through with the finishing move, but he hadn't been informed about the upcoming invasion, so he didn't know that they needed to take their opponents from Suna out. A good fight. The boy has a good head on his shoulders and knows how to use his jutsus. Too bad that Temari was too sure of herself. The Kazekage therefore commented, yes, but I don't think she'll make that mistake again in the future. Sometimes a defeat that you survive can teach you much more than a victory. The Sandaime said wisely. Kakashi only nodded. Alright, what do you think? Should we make things a bit more interesting or let them all continue with the fights like they were planned? Kakashi asked, giving the Sandaime the previously agreed signal. Oh, and what kind of change do you have in mind? The Kazekage asked suspiciously. Well, the Chunin exam finals are all about fighting an opponent you don't have much information about first. But now they have seen what their opponents can do. I'm sure the 6 that got into the semi-finals are already planning how to fight the next one based on this. We could enter a random choice, like we would do in preliminaries if they were necessary. Kakashi explained. I like the idea. A ninja has to be ready to face unknown obstacles all the time on missions. This would tell us much better which of the remaining finalists are ready to be Chunin, as they would have to find counter strategies on missions they get to lead as well. the Sandaime said. In truth, they wanted to mess around with any previously arranged plans of the invaders. They were sure that Gaara was their trump card as soon as Jinchuriki. So if they had planned something involving him, it would be best if they arranged for him to fight Naruto. Why not? I agree that it would be a good way to test the finalists, and I'm absolutely sure that Gaara can take on any of your genin, no matter if he knows who it is beforehand or not. So, you want to draw each pairing directly before the fight? He asked. Yes, otherwise those in the later fights would have an unfair advantage, the Sandaime said. Kakashi stood to announce the terms of the next round. We have seen some very good fight in the first round of the finals. Now I want to announce the stipulations of the next round, the semi-finals. We will choose the pairings randomly. That means that none of the finalists will know beforehand whom he has to face, which shortens the preparation time immensely. As our 6 semi-finalists have had a fight already, we will wait with the second round until in 30 minutes so our competitors have a chance to get injuries treated or rest from a strenuous fight, Kakashi told the audience. Most were excited to get this mode of choosing the competitors. What nobody knew was that Naruto and Gaara wouldn't be in the pool for the first 2 fights. They would get the last one, as the Hokages were sure that Orochimaru wouldn't hold his invasion off for much longer. Chapter 30. Playing with the setups. The break was used to get more bets placed, buy food and drinks, to discuss the previous fights and visit the bathroom. Excitement could nearly be cut with a knife. The first round had given the spectators a good show of the abilities of the genin that were attempting to gain the rank of chunin. Most in the audience were ninjas, with a few civilians and lots of customers of the village mixed into them. Orochimaru had to suppress a chuckle. The people here were absolutely clueless that soon there wouldn't be a village called Konoha anymore. Or not much of it. It was probably impossible to kill everybody, but once Gaara was unleashed onto the village in full Biju form, the villagers wouldn't know what to do anymore. They didn't have the 4th anymore, and neither his son nor his remaining students were capable of taking down a Biju. Even if Kabuto's information on Naruto had been massively lacking in quality, not to mention that, except for a note that he couldn't send more information because Ibiki was getting paranoid and suspected him, or somebody close to him, as a spy, he hadn't heard from him since the second round. Well, he had prepared for anything. And Kabuto knew how to prevent that information got into enemy hands. It would be a shame if he lost the talented young medic, but he could replace him. He was a bit annoyed at the change of how the third round would be battled, but in the end it didn't matter. He had wanted to see Sasuke go up against Gaara, but the quality of the candidates in the finals was really high so far. Sarutobi must have done something during the last months to improve the training of the fresh genin, because clearly there was a massive increase in abilities compared to their academy graduation reports and the progress reports that Kabuto had sent on the teams except for Team 7 under Kakashi. That one was completely wrong. He would see when Gaara would fight. He would give the signal for the attack when Gaara was fighting any member of Kakashi's team. It would be nice to see the young Hokage lose one of his precious students. After all, who would be able to go up against a Jinchuriki that could unleash their Biju? Certainly no genin. The audience was awaiting the drawing of the first match of the second final round. There were 6 competitors left now. 3 of them the students of the Godame Hokage. All 3 had shown their superiority in their fights. Talks about the next generation of the Sannin were going round. Then the giant monitor that had been placed next to the VIP lounge where the Kages resided was flashing through names faster than anybody could look. The board settled on 2 names after a short while. Sakura Haruno would face Shikamaru Nara. The proctor called the 2 down to the arena, and they stood opposite of each other. What a drag. I really hate having to fight girls, Shikamaru complained. I'll make it short for you then, slacker, Sakura countered, cracking her knuckles threateningly. She's as bad as my mother, Shikamaru mumbled. How troublesome. The first fight of the semi-finals of the Chunin exams. Sakura Haruno of Konoha versus Shikamaru Naro of Konoha. The same rules as in round 1 apply. Begin. Hate called out and jumped away. Shikamaru knew that if he wanted to have a chance to win this, he needed to catch Sakura before she could poison him. The fight against Kiba had given him a lot of useful information. Too bad that Sakura knew that as well. She unleashed a flurry of shuriken at him which he had to dodge, and it prevented him from using his shadows efficiently. He countered with some kunai of his own to not let her dominate the fight, but he knew that this matchup was against him. Sakura was fast and knew about his shadow techniques. She would make very sure to not come too close to them. He tried an unusual approach. He had worked hard on this part with his father to be able to connect his shadow in another way than being a sitting duck, and unable to defend himself properly because he had to hold the hand sign until the shadows were connected. So he attacked and went in close, unsheathing a short sword from his back. He knew that this was unlike his normal fighting style, but the typical Nara style was very much meant to work together with others that took care of the physical and distraction parts to allow him to catch an opponent. He held the sword in his right hand and Sakura blocked each strike with a kunai. After a short exchange they jumped apart, and she threw a purple-colored ball at him. He feared poison smoke and held his breath. But the smoke could also work in his favor if he managed to pull this off. He jumped upwards out of the cloud of smoke and therefore avoided the shower of saban that Sakura fired at his former position, to the left of it and to the right. She had had a good idea by covering a wide area, while he would be handicapped in his response time with not seeing what she did exactly. But now the jump in the air allowed him to form his hand sign, another improvement he had made in training, and his small shadow on the ground reached out and connected with the whole shadow of the cloud. Sakura must have known that it could happen, which was why she had fired her senbons wide-ranged. Against a normal opponent that would even have worked. Not many would decide to jump into the air for a short while, risking inhaling the poison when they fell again. But with a smart opponent like Sakura it had been assured that she would do something against normal strategies of avoiding being trapped. He felt the connection from the jutsu, and took in a deep breath before landing back in the cloud of poisonous smoke. He would bet that Sakura had built up an immunity to this type of poison. Or she had learned to hold her breath for long periods of time. Both could be possible and he needed to calculate for it. He ran out of the cloud feeling that his opponent was following him thanks to the shadow connection. "This match is over," he said, secure in his assessment. "No, it's not," Sakura countered. "You can't escape my jutsu. I can simply force you to submit with my sword as you don't have a weapon on your back. So simply give up, Sakura," Shikamaru said. Then he felt a sharp pain in his neck. "What?" Shikamaru asked, struggling to keep hold of his shadow possession. "You should never discount the possibility of a clone, Shikamaru," Sakura said from behind him, fading into view with a syringe in her hand. Shikamaru felt the drug coursing through his system. "How? You don't have enough chakra for any kind of solid clone?" he asked, dropping to a knee. "You would have needed your full reserves for a simple elemental clone alone. And you couldn't have recovered that after the fight against Kiba yet. Well, it has its perks being on a team with Naruto. I know that I don't have the chakra reserves that are necessary for this kind of thing, but he once gave Sasuke and me some useful seals on a mission that allow us to store chakra worth 5 A-rank jutsus in them. I used one during the break and am at more than my normal full capacity right now. Good night, Shikamaru," Sakura said. Shikamaru lost the fight with the drug and fell to the ground, dropping the jutsu against Sakura's clone. Hate landed next to Shikamaru and checked if he was really asleep. "Winner by knockout, Sakura Haruno. She commences to the finals," Hate announced to the cheers of the audience. "Interesting strategy of your student there, Hokage-sama," Orochimaru said in his disguise. "Indeed, and to have it work against a Nara by using his preconceptions is really incredible. She will definitely get her promotion," Kakashi said, smiling. "I agree. She not only made a clone using the cover of poisonous mist, she must also have used the underground fish projection jutsu to travel through the earth. All within a few seconds while also managing to put a genjutsu over herself to hide her presence until it was too late," the Sandaime said. The other two nodded impressed. "Now only 4 are left. I'm somewhat hoping that Gaara gets to fight Sasuke Uchiha. Nothing against the other 2 candidates, but young Sasuke's clan's reputation carries far and people in Suna are curious how he would fare against our strongest genin," Orochimaru said. "Well, Sasuke is definitely one of the most talented genin I have seen in my career as Hokage. But I think Naruto can at least give him a run for his money," the Sandaime said. "We will know soon. Either way, the matchups are going to be known in a few seconds," Kakashi said, seeing that the board was shuffling the names again. Of course he knew that Sasuke would fight Hinata next. It was rigged that way as neither Naruto's nor Gaara's name was available to be chosen. Then the board stopped showing the 2 names. Down in the arena, Hate was calling Hinata and Sasuke down. Hinata and Sasuke observed each other, both having their eyes activated. This was a fight that was a matter of pride for both of them. Uchiha versus Hyuga. Sharingan versus Byakugan. Hate had given the starting signal already, but both were looking for an opening. Hinata knew how strong Sasuke was and Sasuke knew that getting hit by Hinata was fatal. Then they both flew through a sequence of hand seals. Fire style, great fireball. Sasuke called out and shot a big ball of fire at Hinata. Water style, water bullet. Hinata countered. The attacks hit in the middle and produced steam, which covered that part of the arena. The spectators only heard some fighting noises, but they couldn't see a thing through the steam. Finally the steam cleared and both fighters looked a bit worse. Sasuke had trouble with his left arm, and Hinata had some visible bruises on her right arm. Her sleeve had been torn off somehow, and therefore it showed. Sasuke then channeled lightning chakra into a number of shuriken and threw them at Hinata, who slid into a stance nobody had seen before. 8 trigrams, protection of the 64 hands. Hinata called out and started shooting chakra beams from her hands and deflecting and cutting apart the shuriken that Sasuke had thrown at her. Hayashi Hyuga looked very pleased at how this fight was going. While he didn't truly believe that Hinata was good enough to defeat the Uchiha boy, she was not giving up like she had done before, and she was showing off the power of the Hyuga clan. That jutsu was the one she had worked on with the children of the clan, and to see it finished and used in a fight that was as important as this one was good to see. The elders would have to back off from their constant criticism and pressuring him into deciding on the heir. He could continue stalling for now, and he knew that the worst problem, Elder Hiroshi, would not live much longer. He was already ill, and it was only a question of time until he died. Without him demanding that one of Hayashi's daughters being put into the branch family, he could find a solution that prevented that either Hinata or Hanabi ended like Hisashi had, hating his sibling and resenting the main family. It was bad enough that Niji hated them so much. If only he could tell him the truth, but Niji probably wouldn't listen before he had got a major wake-up call from somebody. Hinata and Sasuke watched each other again. They needed to find a way to overcome the other's defense. Then Sasuke drew his sword and ran towards Hinata. She used the gentle fist style to deflect the blade away from her, and even managed to hit a tenketsu on the side of Sasuke's upper left thigh. Sasuke jumped back on the power of his right leg, but Hinata now pressed forward. Sasuke knew he needed to prevent her from attacking in full force. So he used something nobody had seen so far. He started making hand seals with his right hand while holding his sword with his left, which, while slightly handicapped, worked well enough for this. Lightning style, electro web. Sasuke called out, and in front of him a net made of electricity appeared. One-handed seals? That's really impressive. Orochimaru exclaimed. He was drooling on the inside about the potential having that body would offer him. The Sharingan and the knowledge to use one-handed seals. It seems his training over the last month really paid off. He hadn't mastered this trick when the second round ended. Kakashi stated, very pleased. Sasuke had got the idea of using one-handed seals from Naruto, who had told them about how Haku had used them in the ambush on the way to Wave Country. As Sasuke could see the use of having one hand free to wield a weapon freely in a fight, he had worked hard on working out which seal would be needed to use his normal jutsus with one-handed seals. It had taken him months to work everything out, but now he seemed to be secure enough in his skill to use it in a real fight. Your students really show their skill in these finals, Godame-sama. The Sandaime said. Thank you. I'm immensely proud of all of them. Kakashi replied. Hinata didn't have time to dodge the web, so she tried taking away some of its power. She threw a volley of shuriken into it, hoping that the metal would trigger some kind of discharge. Sadly, it didn't really work like that. Instead, the web exploded to her side and she was blown away a few meters. She scrambled back to her feet only to be confronted with Sasuke going into a strong taijutsu assault, which she only managed to partially block. She needed her full concentration to use the gentle fist properly, and with her current state of burns on several places of her body, that wasn't the case. She needed to find a way to turn the battle around, but she couldn't think of one. The problem was that the Sharingan could see through genjutsu easily, so using one of them was just wasting chakra. Well, a ninjutsu should buy her some time. Water style, water whip. She called out, and created a 2 meters long whip which she used to keep Sasuke at a distance. The jutsu wasn't perfected yet, but it was good enough to help her out of a tight spot for a moment. Sadly, she hadn't counted on Sasuke finding a counter very quickly after his initial jump backwards. He let her hit his left arm with the whip and then channeled lightning chakra into his arm and through her whip. She was too slow to let the jutsu falter to avoid getting shocked, and therefore had her nerves fried by the electricity. She tried standing up, but her muscles refused listening to her commands anymore. Then Sasuke stood in front of her, holding his sword to her throat. I win, he stated simply. She couldn't deny that. She would need to regain control of her body for a few minutes before she could continue fighting, and if this was an enemy she would have been dead. But she had performed well and much better than ever before. She had landed a few good hits, and she hadn't given up. She could be proud of that. Hate landed next to them. Winner by submission, Sasuke Uchiha. Hate announced, and the audience cheered for this great battle. A good fight. Both showed a good amount of skill and that they could keep their head in battle. The Sandaime commented, Yes, but the Hyuga girl made a critical mistake in overlooking that her water whip could be used against her, Orochimaru pointed out. True, but I think she didn't expect that Sasuke had mastered lightning manipulation fully. I guess she expected him to need at least a few hand seals to use the whip against her. In that case, she could have succeeded with her tactic. Kakashi spoke up. We will have to consider her for promotion. She showed 2 good fights and only misinformation led to her defeat. The Sandaime nodded, agreeing with that. I guess then it's time for one of the most interesting fights now. The sons of the Yondaime Kages of their respective villages. Orochimaru said, hoping that Gaara would take Naruto out. Indeed. I can promise that Naruto will give his all. He wants to prove that he can one day surpass his father. Kakashi said, Gaara will do all he can to take the victory. Orochimaru stated sure of this. Gaara would probably see Naruto as a worthy challenge to satisfy the demon inside of him. He didn't get blood in his first fight against the Akimichi boy. He was in need of some. And once Gaara had the upper hand and killed Namikaze's brat, he would give the signal to start the invasion. Konoha would fall today. Chapter 31, Naruto vs. Gaara. The crowd was close to boiling. This was the fight everybody had been waiting for. The fight between Gaara Sabaku and Naruto Namikaze. Both the sons of the respective Yondaime of their village, even if Naruto hadn't been known as such until 1 week ago. They stood opposite each other, Naruto with a calm look on his face, Gaara with a crazy look. Many among the audience were watching very closely, hoping to report to their superiors just how strong the son of the Yondaime Hokage really was. Rumors were flying around why he had been revealed now for the Chunin exams. The only hidden village of the Great Five that hadn't sent spies was Iwa, as they had been stopped long before they could reach Konoha. The ANBU were keeping an eye on the one Kumo spy and the Kiri spy. So far they had simply gathered information and not acted against Konoha. And as there were no detected other ninjas from their villages, pending the upcoming invasion, the ANBU were instructed to not bother them. The results of the Chunin exams were common knowledge after a few weeks anyway, and this way it would work as a demonstration of strength to both Kumo and Kiri. Mother will soon have your blood, Namikaze, Gaara said. It is sad that Suna isn't able to properly do a seal. Without the voice in your head that you believe to be your mother's, you could have been a decent bloke, Naruto answered sadly. So you know, that makes it even better. I will kill you and prove my existence. Your blood will be very tasty for mother, Gaara crazed. Naruto just shook his head and went into his stance. In the back of his mind he thought back to the orders that he had been given prior to the finals by his sensei, the new Hokage. Flashback. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke stood in front of the Sandaime, and just crowned Godaime Hokage, and waited for being given their special orders for the upcoming finals. They all knew that something big was up. And as the team that the Godaime Hokage had trained, they would be under close observation by everybody, not to mention that they would be prime targets. Well, Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura, you have impressed me with your passing of the second round and the reports from your trainers. We now have a good opportunity to promote the finals all around the elemental nations. We have some well-known names in the fights, especially a high number of clan heirs, not to mention that we revealed Naruto's true identity, so many will be attracted to come and watch. This should bring good business to the village. Not only for the fights but also in the months to come when the employers will send their missions out. From all the 12 finalists, 9 are from Konoha. That is a very good result for us. I am especially pleased that none of the Oto ninjas have made it to the finals. From what we could find out, Orochimaru founded that village, and now there is no reason for his ninjas to stay here to spy while we can't refuse to let them stay. Thanks to interrogating captured spies, we have a pretty good idea what Orochimaru plans to do during the finals. An invasion of Konoha has been set up by Oto and Suna. We don't know why Suna agreed to this plot, but their ninjas are to be treated as enemies. Kakashi stressed the importance of the point. During the first round of fights, none of you will have to face Gaara, who has been confirmed as the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi by Jiraiya's spy network. The only one of you that has one of the 3 Suna finalists as his opponent is Sasuke. I expect you to make sure that he isn't a problem during the invasion, Kakashi said. I'll make sure of that, Hokage-sama, Sasuke said, looking proud to have such an important task. We can't predict how the fights against the other 2 will go, but I think that we can be sure that Gaara will defeat Choji. Shikamaru might be able to take out Temari. If not, we'll make sure that in the second round Sakura will fight Temari, and Naruto, you'll be the one to fight Gaara no matter what. We'll manipulate the pairings so that our goals are met, Kakashi revealed, and the 3 genin nodded. That will be the hardest fight for you, Naruto, Kakashi said seriously. Not only is Gaara dangerous, I'm sure that he's going to be Suna and Oto's trump card. No ally would send an unstable Jinchuriki into a Chunin exam. Therefore you are ordered to eliminate the threat he poses to Konoha with all methods, Naruto. This is an S-rank mission, do you understand? The Hokage asked. Yes, I do, Naruto stated. He didn't like killing, but he would do it if it was necessary. We can't afford an open assassination attempt against the son of the Kazekage, but in the finals killing your opponent can happen. We are prepared for a worst-case scenario, in other words a total invasion with superior numbers being against us. Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto, we will need all the ninjas we can get to push invading forces back, so I want you to make sure that you don't injure your opponents from Konoha too badly. Show your skills, but remember you are up against our shinobi. We can't risk heavy injuries. When the invasion starts, don't show any mercy to anybody with a Suna or Oto forehead protector. Naruto, I want you to be ready to unleash the Flying Thunder God on any attackers after you neutralize Gaara as a threat. Let's show them why thinking that they could defeat Konoha is folly, Kakashi said, and his students confirmed their orders. Flashback end. Hate took over. The last fight in the first round of the Chunin exam finals. Gaara Sabaku of Suna vs Naruto Namikaze of Konoha. Begin, he announced. Jiraiya was hidden in the shadows of the arena roof near the Kage lounge. He was there to give additional protection against whatever plans the Kazekage might have concocted with Orochimaru. While they didn't know where Orochimaru was hidden, they knew that the two Hokages would be among the main targets of an invasion, alone to prevent them from interfering with the attacking troops. For now he would watch the fight of his godson. After the cool start, they had managed to establish a working relationship with each other. Naruto had longed for a family for all his life, and even if he was mad that his godfather had left him behind in a village where the majority of the inhabitants hated him, he wouldn't deny himself a family for the future. And Jiraiya had done all he could to make up for his absence, so he now had a perverted uncle, a wise grandfather, and an annoying little brother. Konohamaru somehow grew on you once he got over his ego. His family might be unusual and not his by blood, but it was his nonetheless. Jiraiya knew that it wasn't easy for Naruto to be ordered to kill Gaara, but the threat he presented to the village was too big to be ignored. Naruto knew that he could have ended like Gaara easily. So having to kill a fellow Jinchuriki was really hard on him. If only he could place a 5-element seal, then they could take him prisoner. But with the annoying sand armor that option was not available. And they had spied intensively on Gaara to find ways to take out the trump card Orochimaru planned to play in the invasion. Naruto jumped back from Gaara to have enough space to evade the sand the boy would undoubtedly unleash. Well, Gaara would be in for a surprise there. The hidden Misjutsu, which he had learned with the help of Jiraiya and a scroll about the technique from Kakashi-sensei, was out of the question for an opponent that wasn't dependent on sight. The sand could sneak up on him in the mist, so he wouldn't take away his own advantage. It was for the same reason he hadn't used it against Shino. His bugs could come from any direction. But it would come in handy later during the invasion to take out large numbers of opponents quickly. While he jumped and ran around Gaara, he used his sensor abilities to try and find any weaknesses in the boy's sand defense. He could feel the chakra that was in the sand. It was even. He also knew that Gaara was using the ground to his advantage. Well, he would show him what danger a water elemental with a shitload of chakra could pose to him. He flew through a chain of hand seals and finally unleashed his jutsu. Thankfully there were hidden water reserves under the arena. Pulling all the water he needed from the air would have been exhausting. And he would need the water storage seals for later probably, so if he could save them, all the better. Giant waterfall jutsu. Naruto called out and unleashed tons of water upon Gaara and the whole arena. That is impossible. Where does he get that much water from? Kurenai asked, shocked. There are reservoirs under the floor for the finalists to use. To be fair to all possible elemental jutsus, there are resources that if found by the genin can be used, Asuma explained, trying to hide his being impressed with the jutsu Naruto had just pulled off. But that much water? I could understand a low-level water jutsu being used. That jutsu is an A-rank jutsu that is not widely known in Konoha. We should have expected it. He is the best of the new generation after all, Asuma said. And I knew that he had water as one of his elements. I just didn't think he would be able to pull all the water from the reservoirs. That requires incredible chakra control next to the raw reserves he needs. True. Chakra-intensive jutsus would come easier to him than those requiring fine control. And to get all the water through the ground without losing a good amount on the way proves that he has really good control, Kurenai admitted. Naruto was very pleased with the results of his jutsu. While Gaara had managed to jump away from the wave that had been unleashed at him, at least half of his sand was now mud. and all the preparation of the ground had been wasted. Mud was heavier than sand and harder to manipulate. Against a water user like Naruto, Gaara was at a disadvantage. Additionally, Gaara would be hard-pressed to keep his remaining sand dry to be able to use it. In the Kage lounge, Orochimaru was seething. The brat had become even better during the month of preparation. And he hadn't been able to find Sasuke. Somehow Sarutobi and Kakashi had known what he had planned and taken precautions to keep him away from his goal. He had counted on Gaara to kill Naruto in their fight, but with the level of control the brat demonstrated, he had a real chance to defeat Gaara. Water, while in small amounts, was no danger to Gaara, but those amounts Naruto used were dangerous. He had proven that with the first attack. By his estimation, Gaara's reserves of sand had been cut in half, and without any additional supplies from the ground, Gaara would be limited to the stored sand in his gourd. This wasn't looking good. Normally the best time to start the invasion would have been the final fight between Sasuke and Gaara, but now it could be that his best weapon would be out of commission before the invasion even started. How did Sarutobi get Naruto this strong in just 1 month? Stupid Kabuto for not getting proper information on that team. Naruto used the time Gaara was occupied with dodging his jutsu to create 5 water clones and hid them in the water. His plan didn't only rely on water jutsus. No, he had also a bunch of seals he wanted to use to trap Gaara. He wouldn't leave anything to chance. The safety of Konoha was at stake, and he would protect his home. He had created those seals himself as his masterwork. He had looked for a possibility to use the 5 elements seal on Gaara despite his impenetrable defense. He now thought he had found it, or at least he would be able to imitate the effects to some degree. His clones were placing prepared seal tags at 5 strategic points of the arena. Then, once they were in place, he could spring his trap. He just needed to distract Gaara from anything but him. So another water jutsu was it. Water release, water dragon bullet, he announced after going through the chain of necessary seals. He had great control over his dragon and made it chase Gaara around the walls and over the water surface. Obviously the redhead knew that if he was hit with that much water, he wouldn't be able to move properly anymore. Very impressive, Hokage-sama, Orochimaru in his Kazekage disguise said. Yes, it is Kazekage-sama, thank you. Naruto is one of our best upcoming shinobi. I am very happy how well he is faring against a strong opponent like Gaara. He is fighting very strategically. I will definitely have him promoted to Chunin after the exams. His planning and use of his opponent's weaknesses is very good, Kakashi stated. I have to agree, but Gaara isn't defeated yet. You will see, Orochimaru answered. No, you will see. There is no way Naruto will let your weapon do any damage to Konoha, the Sandaime thought. Naruto got the signal from his clones that the seals had been put in place. First he created 9 shadow clones, 5 of which immediately took over, pelting Gaara with water attacks. 3 of them were taken out by Gaara's sand, but they all did their purpose of giving Naruto time for his trap. He and the other 4 clones got out of the area his seals would influence, and began going through a new chain of hand seals. Fuinjutsu, 5 elements demon imprisonment barrier. They shouted together, and slammed their hands onto one of the seals each. A light blue pentagram was stylized between the 5 seals. Gaara felt pain like never before in his life. It was as if part of his being was cut away. The Kages were stunned. Naruto had managed to capture Gaara in a sealing array that would cut his connection with his Biju. Kakashi looked at Naruto and saw that the boy was waiting, a kunai ready to attack once the connection was severed enough to manage the kill he was ordered to do. But this could work even better. He discreetly gave Naruto a signal to not go for the kill but for a permanent 5 elements seal on the boy. No need to waste the opportunity to capture another Jinchuriki. And in eventual negotiations with Suna it would be beneficial to have such a valuable offer. Naruto nodded slightly and threw his kunai, as if he wanted to see if his opponent's defense was down. It looked like it had been his plan from the beginning. Gaara was hit by the kunai in his left arm and began bleeding. It looked as if he was going crazy over seeing his own blood. Naruto made a shadow clone to take his place. Baki didn't believe his eyes. His student was obviously in a crazy rush, but his demon didn't take over. He was in pain, but somehow the barrier that blonde kid had put up suppressed the Shikaku from coming out. Now the blonde was running down the wall towards Gaara, his hand glowing at the fingertips. That couldn't end well, he should act, but the signal didn't come yet. Fuinjutsu, 5 elements seal, Naruto shouted and slammed his right hand into Gaara's stomach. Gaara looked shocked and collapsed into the water beneath him. The voice, I can't hear mother's voice, he whispered before he fell unconscious. Naruto prevented him from drowning and held him up by his collar. He checked the seal and was happy to see it worked perfectly. He also had a look at the seal that imprisoned the Ichibi. He was enraged. That seal was too weak to keep the demon from influencing Gaara. The seal master that put that seal onto Gaara should be forced to live through the craziness he put Gaara through with his sloppy work. Winner, Naruto Namake's hate announced. After a moment of silence, people began applauding Naruto. The fight had been fast-paced, and they had seen impressive jutsus. Naruto still had some problems taking in that they were really cheering and clapping for him. Then he began to smile a little and gave a good show. Politics sucked, but it would look good for the clients. He waved to the crowd and left the arena with Gaara over his shoulders to hand him over to Anbu. He wouldn't take any risk. But he was glad that his orders had been changed the last moment. Perhaps he could help Gaara to get over his craziness now that the demon was silenced. In Suna, in a room where two old people were fishing, one of them sneezed. "Did you catch a cold, sister?" the old man asked. "Sister?" he asked. "Have you died?" "Ha ha, gotcha. I just pretended to have died," she laughed insanely. "Sometimes I wonder if there were side effects of the seal," the old man mumbled. Orochimaru was livid but had to keep up a calm appearance. His plans were endangered because one brat, a Namikaze again, ruined a key part of them. First Minato was chosen for Sandaime Hokage, then Naruto took out his trump card in the attack. But at least he could start the invasion off. Perhaps the brat was too tired to really fight now. That would help, and Sasuke also had had 2 tiring fights. He should be easier to capture now. Jiraiya was immensely proud of his godson. He had shown everybody his abilities. He would be promoted for sure. Now he had to find the traitor and stop his plans. Sadly, Orochimaru was really good at suppressing his chakra signature. The only way he would be able to find him between all those people in the arena would be Sage Mode, and he only used that as a last resort. Chapter 32, Invasion. Feathers fell down onto the arena. The 3 members of Team 7 nodded towards each other. Sasuke and Sakura had replenished their energy with the seals again, and were fully charged to fight against the attackers. They saw that in the Kage booth a smoke bomb went off, but they knew that their sensei and the Sandaime would be more than up to fighting any opponent. Naruto took charge and they quickly tore through any ninja that bore a Suna or Oto forehead protector. Sakura, head over to the VIP lounge and make sure that none of the guests there is injured. We'll also direct any injured over there for treatment. Sasuke, you take command of the other genin here. We need to secure certain locations in the village, most prominently the academy, the hospital, and the routes to the shelters. We can only properly strike back at the invading forces once the civilians are safe. Naruto recited their orders. Understood, Sasuke replied and collected Shino, Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, Ino, and Hinata. Those of them that had fought had their injuries treated by now. Thankfully, none of them was in really bad shape. We're going to help out securing important locations. Team 10, you'll cover the hospital and follow the orders of whichever superior ninja is in charge there. Team 8, you're with me to cover the academy and the routes to the shelters. We need to get all civilians to safety as quickly as possible. Sasuke repeated Naruto's orders and handed out jobs. Naruto was already gone from the arena, off to the village to do his part. Sasuke knew that Naruto was part of a small group of people that had to take out as many opponents as possible. He had seen him rush off with Tenten Jackanato, a student of Gai Meito, his sensei's self-declared eternal rival. The girl was great with thrown weapons, and from what he knew, that was the perfect combination with the one jutsu that Naruto knew and that had made his father famous. The Flying Thunder God. Naruto and Tenten raced over the roofs of the village. They had practiced for 2 hours each day over the last week to get their combination attacks perfected. Naruto had taught Tenten the Shadow Clone Jutsu and given her a fully charged chakra storage seal to pull 2 clones off. Each clone of her had a scroll with Naruto's special kunais. Death would rain onto the attackers from above. For now they would concentrate on groups of attackers that weren't in close proximity to any civilians. While Konoha had started evacuating the civilians as soon as the finals had started in secret, they couldn't make it obvious, so they had concentrated on areas that weren't that important, but housed a lot of people. Targets in reach in 10 seconds, Naruto said, using his sensor abilities to estimate the distance. Roger, the original Tenten replied. Ready to fire. The 2 clones jumped to the sides and went looking for their own groups with 2 Naruto clones each to repeat the attacks. Once they were close enough, Tenten unsealed the kunai from the scrolls she had been given and started firing them at the enemies. Naruto vanished in a yellow flash, and below Tenten the opponents started falling like flies within seconds. She had read about this jutsu's devastating power, but seeing it used in front of her was something entirely else. Naruto flashed back to the roof once he had killed the last attacker. He made 2 clones to collect his kunai for another use. They would deliver the filled scroll once they were done sealing them all up again. Target destroyed. Let's move on, Tenten, Naruto said. She nodded and they continued their job. Orochimaru had kidnapped the Sandaime Hokage and now shed his disguise as the Kazekage. Kimimaro had managed to distract Kakashi, so that he hadn't followed them. His elite guard, the Sound 4, erected a barrier to keep all opponents out. Sadly, they were not fast enough to get it up before Jiraiya, who had been closest to the Kage box, entered. Oh, isn't it a nice team reunion? Orochimaru asked, silently cursing. With both his sensei and Jiraiya as his opponents, he would be hard-pressed to win. But he had a trump card. He would just have to call backup. We are just missing Tsunade, then we would be complete. Today this will end, Orochimaru. Today I will correct my old mistake, the Sandaime said. Jiraiya looked around and inspected the construction of the barrier. The only way would be to take out the pillars, the 4 ninja that held the barrier. Sadly, without somebody of Tsunade's strength, it would be hard to destroy the roof to make them lose their hold. But he had a jutsu that would have a similar effect, even if not on her scale. Sensei, can you occupy him for a while? I will take care of the 4 that hold the barrier, Jiraiya said. Hurry up, Jiraiya, the twice-retired Hokage replied. I am sure he has some nasty surprises planned. Of course, Sensei, Jiraiya confirmed and ran towards the corner where the guy with the 6 arms sat holding the barrier. Oh no, you don't, Jiraiya! Orochimaru shouted, knowing that if Jiraiya wanted to destroy the barrier, he would find a way. Your fight is with me, Orochimaru! The Sandaime Hokage exclaimed and went through hand seals. Earth release, mud flow river, he called out and unleashed a stream of mud from his mouth. Orochimaru dodged the mud and countered the jutsu. Earth release, earth encampment wall, he said, and created a wall of earth to deflect his sensei's jutsu. Jiraiya had reached the corner and concentrated chakra in his right hand. Soon he had a spinning ball and rammed it directly under the inner side of the barrier. Rasengan! He shouted. His attack took out a good part of the roof, and the one holding the jutsu was hard pressed to keep the barrier up, but he managed. Under him was now an opening, which Jiraiya immediately used. Summoning jutsu, a green toad his height appeared. Hello, Gamakiri. Ready to show this upstart that works for Orochimaru how stupid that decision was? Jiraiya asked the female toad. Oh, Jiraiya, you always have such a way with words, she answered, chuckling. Combination jutsu, toad water bullet, he stated, and combined his chakra with that of Gamakiri. The water from Gamakiri shot with enormous force into the hole Jiraiya had made with the Rasengan and took out any tiles from the roof that were still whole. The water additionally forced the 6-armed guy to lose his balance and let the jutsu go. The whole barrier fell down, and the Anbu that waited outside and the Godaime Hokage, who had killed Kimimaro quicker than Orochimaru had expected, attacked. The Sound 4 now involved the Anbu in fights, activating the 2nd level of their cursed seals. Orochimaru was furious that his plan didn't work just because of that Baka Jiraiya. He flew through a series of hand seals to get one last attempt for victory. Impure World Resurrection Jutsu, he called out, and coffins began to rise with numbers on them. The Sandaime flew through his own hand seals to prevent them all from coming out. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu, he exclaimed and shot a barrage of shuriken at Orochimaru. The coffin with the kanji 4/4 was kept down. The first 2 were opening. Jiraiya went back to his sensei's side and Kakashi landed next to them. This is looking bad, sensei, Jiraiya commented. Not as bad as it could have been. I managed to prevent the 3rd one. And with the barrier down, backup can help us when they have dealt with his guards, the Hokage commented. Then they saw massive snakes destroying the village walls in the east. Now, don't you think you are needed out there, Jiraiya? Orochimaru sneered. Nah, I can leave that part to my godson, Jiraiya confidently replied. Your godson? Orochimaru asked, surprised. Yes, I think you know of him. Messy, spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, whisker marks on his cheeks, and a talent and determination I only saw in his father before, Jiraiya commented. So, the fool that sacrificed his life made you godfather of his son. He must have been desperate to make a pervert like you godfather of his only son, Orochimaru mocked Jiraiya. Better a pervert than a pedophile, Jiraiya mocked back. You really think I wouldn't have prepared for anybody interfering with my plans? My men are already catching him and Sasuke. Once Konoha is destroyed, I will mark Sasuke and turn Naruto to serve only me. Jiraiya started laughing with Kakashi chuckling along. I hope you weren't overly fond of the men you sent after them. You won't see them again, Kakashi said. Those 2 will take out any opponent that they encounter, he stated, completely serious. As if Naruto wanted to prove Jiraiya and Kakashi right, a giant toad appeared directly where the snakes were. You said something, Orochi team? Jiraiya asked smugly. You will still not win against me, Orochimaru said, and rammed kunai with controlling formulas into the necks of the Shodai and Naidame Hokages which he had resurrected. After having taken out 6 groups of enemies with the 3 groups of them, Naruto and Tenten had reached the outer wall of the village. They then were surprised by a giant snake tearing the wall down. Shit, that thing is huge! Tenten exclaimed after having jumped out of the way of falling wood and stone from the wall. A summons. Orochimaru must have left a sealing formula somewhere to get the snake here. There are 3 ways of dealing with it. One is taking out all summoners, the second destroying the sealing formula, Naruto explained. And the third? Tenten asked. This one, summoning jutsu. Naruto exclaimed. Under Naruto appeared a giant blue toad with a shield and a club in its webbed hands. Naruto? What is the matter? The toad asked. Gamma Hero, I need your assistance dealing with that summoned snake. We need to prevent that it kills our ninjas, Naruto explained. No problem, Gamma Hero responded and lashed out with his club. Tenten watched in awe how Naruto and his toad partner dealt with the snake. The snake tried biting the toad, but it deflected with the shield. Then Naruto was somehow on top of the snake's head and landed a hit with a Rasengan, which made the snake disappear. Thank you for your assistance, Gamma Hero, Naruto called out. I need to go on. There are still too many enemies and soon the full-out counter-strike will be launched. It was my pleasure, Naruto. Call me whenever you need me again, Gamma Hero replied and went back to the toad summoning realm in a cloud of smoke. Naruto landed on the ground easily. He and Tenten then continued taking out enemies that tried getting through the hole in the wall, only to find out that a weapons mistress with incredible aim that spread flying thunder god kunai and the son of the yellow flash, who could use Senjutsu perfectly, were deadly opponents. Sasuke and teammate were fighting off a handful of Suna ninjas that had targeted the academy. They covered the backs of the evacuating academy students and their teachers. The Chunin teachers would be able to protect the children on the way to the shelters as long as they could buy them time. Shino unleashed his bugs on the Suna ninjas. Kiba and Akamaru used their double drilling Fong technique to tear into the enemies, and Hinata practically danced around the attacks of the enemies and landed her own whenever there was an opening. All of them had got some chakra storage seals, all prepared before the invasion by Dark Phoenix and given to the chosen team captains on orders of the Hokage. Sasuke had handed them out just before they had split from Team 10. Now all the genin were at full reserves chakra-wise and could fight at their best. Sasuke shot a fireball at his opponent, and followed it up immediately by running after the fireball, using the cover it offered hit to close the distance, and get a deadly hit in by stabbing the Suna ninja into the heart. As there were only 4 opponents, they were soon done and continued to their next location. Sasuke gave orders about directions and they were off again. As long as their opponents were at Genin or Chunin level, they would be able to take them on. That much they knew. Shikamaru had bound 8 attacking Noto ninjas and it allowed Choji and 2 other Chunins that protected the hospital to take them out. Ino supported them by throwing poison senbons on her opponents from a safe distance. Her taijutsu wasn't strong enough to go up against Chunin or higher level ninjas, so she did what would be successful. And having to shield against poison needles while other attacks also were used against them was not easy. The main problem was that there were lots of attackers. Much more than they were. While they had already taken out about 20 enemies, there were still about 30 left, and they were hard-pressed to defend the hospital. And this was only their side. The other sides were also under attack, and the other ninjas entrusted with the duty to protect the hospital were also in full fight. Then suddenly a high number of kunai rained down between the ninjas. Then there were yellow flashes and the ninjas fell quickly. Wow, that were a lot at one time, they all heard a voice from above. They looked up and saw Naruto and a brown-haired girl with twin buns on her head standing on the roof. Perfect aim as always, Tenten, Naruto complimented. Thanks, Naruto. But you're doing the bigger part of the work here, Tenten replied. Hey, without your incredible aim this would be impossible and you know it, Naruto gave back. We've cleared the area for now, but stay on guard for more attacking. Thanks for the help, Naruto, Choji called out, and the blonde waved only to race off with Tenten, just leaving a clone behind that collected the kunai. I can't believe it, he knows the flying thunder god jutsu, one of the Chunin exclaimed once he got over his astonishment. Just like the Yondaime. Well, he is his son, isn't he? Ino asked. Yes, but that jutsu was thought to be lost when Yondaime-sama died. To think that Naruto has perfected it with 13, it's incredible, the second Chunin pointed out. The members of Team 10 understood, but they were used to Naruto performing in a league of his own by now. They had gone up against him in countless training sessions and knew that you could never underestimate him. They saw the signal from the Hokage monument. The evacuation was complete now. They could strike back without holding back. The group of 3 nodded at each other. It was time to show why they were Konoha ninjas. Soon they encountered a group of 5 Oto ninjas. Ice release. 1,000 flying ice needles. One of them exclaimed and let ice needles shoot at the group from all sides. Steel release, blade forest. The second one shouted and razor-sharp steel blades grew from the ground, spearing those that hadn't been hit by the needles. Only one of the 5 was still alive after the 2 had performed their attacks. But he felt his breath being taken away after the third one touched his throat. Poison touch, toxic breath, she said calmly. He didn't live long after that. We're done with this group, Haku, the steel release user said. Good, Sanai. Kimi, we need a distraction for the next group in the next street. Can you release your poisonous mist? Haku asked. Sure thing, Haku. They'll find out why we're now valued special jonin of Konoha, Kimi answered. The 3 former accomplices of Zabuza had, after a few weeks of interrogation and negotiations with the Sandaime Hokage, decided to settle down in Konoha. They had gone through probationary periods of 3 months each and had then been put into Konoha's ranks. Haku was working part-time at the hospital thanks to his medical knowledge, and was trained to get his license as a full medic nin. Sanai had performed some missions with several Konoha teams of mostly B-rank level, and Kimi was now part of the torture and interrogation department, and had found a friend for life in Anko Mitarashi, her partner there. Both were real sadists, and loved causing pain to their victims. As Konoha offered them many boons if they agreed to join the village, protection from persecution by Kiri and the chance to rebuild their clans in Konoha among them, they had decided to fully embrace their new village's ideals. And having people around you that didn't hate you for your bloodline limit was really nice after having to deal with being hated for how you were born for years. Jiraiya had managed to trap the Shodai Hokage in his swamp of the underworld jutsu, and was now destroying his head with a Rasengan to get the control formula out. He had the impression the Shodai smiled before he was sent back to the afterlife. Kakashi was similarly successful with the night aim. He countered the water release with his lightning release and his Sharingan abilities. Even the infinite darkness techniques was dispelled by the eye's ability to see through genjutsu. But it was still a hard fight. The night aim was incredibly strong and Kakashi had to be on guard all the time to keep up with him. Thankfully he had a massively larger jutsu repertoire than the resurrected night aim, and he managed to break through his defense to follow Jiraiya's example to attack the head. A Chidori destroyed the control formula. The jutsu broke and the body of one of the Odo Genin from the Chunin exams was revealed. The Sandaime, while fighting with Enma in his adamantine staff form, was giving Orochimaru a hard time. He had attacked again and again, but had failed so far. None of his attacks with Kusanagi got through. His sensei was astonishingly good in form. You seem to be in good form still, sensei, he commented. Well, when you know about an invasion for a month you have enough time to prepare, the Sandaime answered. So you knew and didn't do anything to stop me. How arrogant! Mentally he shouted in rage. How could the old fool have known his plans? Oh, don't wonder about our information. When we knew you were after Sasuke after your fight with Enko, we prepared for the worst-case scenario. We watched your little spy, Kabuto, and found out that Suna was conspiring with you. So we just had to make sure your ace, Gaara, wouldn't be any danger to us. Didn't Naruto do a fantastic job? So you knew about Kabuto. How? Orochimaru asked while trying to overpower his sensei. This didn't look good for him. The Sound Four were dead or knocked out, the 2 summoned Hokages taken out, and now he had to face both his sensei, Kakashi, and his old teammate. You can thank Naruto for that. He was suspicious about Kabuto when he showed information about the genin in the exams. He just couldn't explain how somebody would try to take the exam 7 times in a row and not be promoted. Not to mention that he freely gave information up. He informed me and Ibiki of his suspicion, and we kept an eye on Kabuto. We didn't take him out as he was useful for us to watch, and it would have tipped you off. This way we had the chance to trap you. You won't escape this time, the Sandaime said. Jiraiya appeared and attacked Orochimaru with a hair needle barrage. Kakashi followed with a Raikiri and the Sandaime with a flurry of attacks with his bow staff. Together they got some good hits into the defense. The Anbu shot elemental attacks at Orochimaru, and he knew he had to somehow flee. He got hit by a fire jutsu from Jiraiya and his right arm was completely burned. Orochimaru hissed in pain. But what he saw next was much more worrisome. Jiraiya powered up a new Rasengan while his sensei's fingers were glowing and they were just centimeters from his stomach. 5 elements seal. the Hokage shouted and rammed his hand into Orochimaru's stomach. The loss of his chakra was enough to stop Orochimaru from using his skin-shedding jutsu. Jiraiya's Rasengan hit his stomach perfectly. Orochimaru, the so-called genius of the Sannin, died by the hands of this old sensei, and his teammate whom he had thought to be an idiot all his life. Chapter 33, Aftermath. Konoha had been hit hard, but not as hard as it could have been. The precautions that had been set up before the Chunin exam finals had started had taken out a lot of opposition before it could reach the village. The lightning wire trap field around the village had only been overcome in the area where the snake summons had broken through, and as 3/5 of the area had been trapped like that, over 300 attackers hadn't even reached the village walls. Those that had been inside the walls had managed to disguise themselves perfectly as normal guests. Estimations were that Suna and Oto had sent about 600 to 700 ninjas to attack. The plan had been to unleash the Ichibi on Konoha to cause as much destruction as possible and kill as many of Konoha's ninja force as he could. But with Naruto taking out Gaara in his fight, that trump card had been stopped before it could be played. Some important persons had been taken prisoner, like the other 2 children of the Yondaime Kazekage. They would see what they did with them in the following weeks. Right now Konoha was in a very strong position. The attack had been soundly pushed back and with little loss on Konoha's side. The ones most talked about were Naruto, Namikaze and Tenten, who had been leading in getting rid of the ninjas that had managed to infiltrate the village or avoid the trap fields. Next to them, the performance of many other clan heirs, especially Sasuke Uchiha, were discussed openly with admiration. While the evacuation of the civilians had been started way before the invasion was started, there had been some who had seen which people protected the village where. And the ninjas that had survived the invasion were telling others who had performed especially well. The T&I department was overfilled right now with prisoners to interrogate. Enko and Kimi were very happy about that, and went to work enthusiastically. The villagers had also caught a few glimpses of the mysterious Seal Master Dark Phoenix when Anbu inspected areas where the damage had been largest. Supposedly he was tasked to find ways to secure those areas better in the future. Nobody could make assumptions who Dark Phoenix was. He was clad in dark gray clothes with a mask like the Hokage to hide the lower part of his face, and a hood that concealed his hair completely. And nobody ever got close enough to see more. The Hokage meanwhile had put the village under lockdown for 2 weeks to take care of the most serious issues right away. There would also be a new policy for entrance into the village. Many grumbled about the additional hassle, but the ninjas could see the benefit of knowing exactly who got close to the village. That part had been in work for a long time, and only the fact that the current surveillance seal barrier was very complicated and Jiraiya had taken a lot of time to completely understand the formulas, had prevented that it got ready in time for the finals. After an invasion like this one, it was only logical that security would be upped. Most were just relieved that the losses hadn't been worse. Most injuries weren't bad enough to keep the ninjas at the hospital for more than a few hours to rest and recover at home. About 50 had to be treated a bit longer and stay for a week, but that was about the longest anybody had to stay there. The Godaime Hokage had made sure that all medics went through some remedial training to ensure that they were ready for the expected attack. He also had already ordered to check children at the academy for aptitude for medical training. There had to be a lot of potential that could be exploited, and if they started early on, they could ensure that nearly all teams had a capable medic on them. A few craftsmen had been let into the village to help out with reparations. There were lots of houses that had taken damage and that needed to be repaired as soon as possible. The main workforce came with Tazuna from Wave Country. Thanks to the help the Godaime's team had given the country some months ago, they had offered to help with the work for a discount rate. It had been happily accepted. The Genin teams were all given jobs to help with the rebuilding. It was a good chance to give positive PR to the ninja program. Many people were waiting for something else though. The announcement on the promotions from the Chunin exams. There had been more than enough fights to promote a good number of Genin to Chunin. It was 3 weeks after the invasion, and Kakashi had called in the judges of the exams together with the advisors he had chosen. He had sent Koharu and Hamura into retirement, as he couldn't stand their condescending ways, and had made Hiruzen Sarutobi and Tsunade Senju his new advisors. The reappearance of Tsunade had been a major surprise for most, but there were rumors that she had returned because of a lost bet. Truth was that during the month of training for the shortly after the exams, Jiraiya and Naruto had confronted Tsunade. She had been at the stadium thanks to planning on betting on the matches and after the finals taking Shizen back with her, as she had trained Sakura. They had convinced her to stay in the village after Naruto had had a few very clear words about how she was whining like a brat about her losses. He had then let loose with the things he had lost, and how he had suffered and that he still wasn't giving up. He would show people that they were dead wrong going against him, and that she should stop living in the past, and instead finally face the present. She was after all nowhere as bad off as he was and others were. Sasuke had lost his whole clan to his brother, Kakashi had lost his parents, his teammates and his sensei, Sarutobi had lost his wife and daughter, and there were countless others that had pulled though and gone on with their lives. It helped that she had had to overcome her fear of blood to save Shizen, who had helped defending the village in the invasion and had been cornered by 3 Suna Jonins. Shizen had taken out 2 of them and Tsunade had punched the 3rd of them through a house wall to save her apprentice. But during the fight Shizen had been hit in 2 critical points with the wind sword. One wound she had somewhat treated herself, but the second one had been too much for her with the loss of blood from the wounds. Tsunade had trembled a lot, but the thought of losing the one person she could call family after all her other losses had made her pull though and overcome that particular barrier in her mind. With a few additional concessions like being allowed to still travel for 2 months a year when things got too much inside the village and being given free reign over the setup for a medic need program with enough financial means to do it properly with a good salary on top, she had been convinced to come back. The fact that Naruto had bet her that he could hold up against her in a fight for 5 minutes when she went Jonin level had only helped with it. Now Tsunade had taken command over the hospital with Shizen as her assistant, and was bringing them up to speed. She had also taken up the Senju seat, which gave the shinobi side of the council a lot more weight in decisions that concerned both parts of the council. Few as there were left now that the Sandaime Hokage had cleaned up a lot of messes and the Godaime Hokage continued doing. The Sarutobi seat was filled by Asuma, the Sandaime's son, and Naruto had arranged that his father's seat, each Hokage got one for reaching the office that was hereditary for his clan after that, was proxied by Jiraiya or, if he was out of the village, Shizen for now. He didn't want to deal with the council sessions right now as he still needed to train more, and he didn't like the politics certain council members used. So he had decided to wait until he was at least 16 to take up his seat, which none of the other shinobi council members had any problem with, thinking it a wise decision. Well, we're all here, Kakashi started the meeting, wearing the traditional Hokage robes. As you all know, we have to decide which of our genin we want to promote to the rank of Chunin. The exams have given us a good number of talented young shinobi to choose from. I think the best way is going by the order of their fights and discuss if the candidate has proven the qualification for the rank. That sounds logical, Shibi Aburame agreed. Thankfully for the Chunin promotions only the Shinobi Council and the judges for the exams were required, otherwise the civilians would have tried to make a nuisance of themselves. They had tried insisting that they had a right to decide as well, but Kakashi had shot that down, claiming a purely ninja-related decision. With that approach, the first fight was the one between Sakura Haruno and Kiba Inuzuka. Let's start with my observations about Kiba. While he was clearly aware that he didn't have an easy opponent and was on guard, he needs to first overcome his weaknesses better. Those being his overly heightened senses and the dependence on his ninja dog partner. While both can also be strengths, if not protected they can be turned against him, as Sakura proved well, Shikaka stated. He needs to work more on guarding his partner from surprise attacks like the poison needles that Sakura used. Otherwise he didn't get to show much and lost his temper after seeing his dog unconscious. He needs more time and training before being ready for being a Chunin. I have to agree with your observations. He needs more time, even if he might have some techniques he couldn't show thanks to Sakura being very fast in using her strategy, Tsunade agreed. From the things I read in the reports of the response teams in the invasion, he did well in his given mission, so my suggestion is we put a positive recommendation into his file for his performance in the invasion, but don't promote him. The others all nodded, so no formal voting was required. Next would be Sakura, and we have 2 fights to judge from next to her actions during the invasion, Kakashi said. I was very impressed with her strategy against Kiba. She knew about the weakness of her opponent, and while it normally is seen as a strength, she turned it against him. And after having taken Kiba's dog out of the fight with a simple technique like poison senbons, she pressed her advantage and drugged Kiba without falling to her own plan. That's always a risk with young poison users, Shibi commented. True, she planned that fight properly and had the complete control from the start. That's very important for a Chunin, the Sandaime commented. It also showed in her second match against Shikamaru that she has a very sharp mind if she could outthink and trick Anara. Yes, Shikamaru was operating on wrong information she let him believe. Not revealing all your tricks too early on is a very good tactic for a ninja and Chunin material. I definitely think she has the qualifications for the promotion, Hayashi Hyuga agreed. Anybody against Sakura's promotion? There were no raised hands. Any abstentions? No arms as well. Then we'll note that the first Chunin promotion for this year goes to Sakura Harino, Kakashi stated and wrote it down in her file with the number of votes like it was necessary. They continued with all the other fights of the first round and decided that Ino needed more time and wasn't ready for promotion, but that Hinata had shown great performance in both her fights, even showing off self-created jutsus based on her clan's taijutsu style, and deserved her promotion. The same held true for Sasuke, with an additional positive commendation for his taking up leadership in the invasion and successfully protecting the academy. That made 3 promotions so far. Choji would get a positive recommendation for his part in the invasion and acknowledgement of not being able to take down an opponent far superior to his level, but it wasn't enough to promote him. Shino was praised for his strategy and skills in the fight against Naruto, who had clearly been the stronger of the two. Combined with his performance in protecting the academy, he was granted his promotion as well. It wouldn't make sense to leave him a genin, especially as he had found a new way to use his clan's jutsu in combination with elemental jutsus. Naruto's comment was pushed to be discussed last, as there were some things Kakashi wanted to add to his shown abilities in the exams. Shikamaru was judged positively for great strategy in both his fights and using unusual tactics to capture and force his opponents to submit. He wouldn't make the mistake of going by assumed information again after Sakura used that to drug him. He would be on the lookout for any kind of tricks, and he had done well in defending the hospital from the attackers. He was also promoted. Now our last candidate is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Kakashi said, and the clan heads listened intensively. His shown abilities in the finals, especially his capture of an enemy Jinchuriki for the village, go far beyond the level we look for in our Chunin. True, I've never seen that level of Fuinjutsu. You were the one to train him during the preparation month, Jiraiya-sama, am I correct? Inoichi asked. Yes, I did train him, but that seal is completely his creation. I evaluated him as well as Dark Phoenix a few months ago, and both are seal masters. I know for a fact that they have worked together for some projects as well, for example the identification seal we used during the invasion to differentiate between friend and foe. Team 7 tested the seals during the second part of the Chunin exams to get an idea of their reach, and their results led us to use them for the Chunin and Jonin of Konoha during the invasion, and it made the fights a lot easier on our side, Jiraiya said. Naruto is a genius with Fuinjutsu, but being an Uzumaki, that isn't that surprising, and his father was also fantastic with them. You could probably say the boy was born to excel in that art. There was some agreeing mumbling heard from others. Many knew of the reputation of the Uzumaki clan, and the Yondaime Hokage had been incredible with Fuinjutsu as well. Nonetheless, I don't think he has the experience to be promoted to Jonin yet, Choza mentioned. I have to agree. While he certainly has the skill, he's only been a ninja for a bit over 6 months. But just promoting him to Chunin wouldn't be enough, Shikaka added. He's far beyond that level and has been for months. Shikamaru had shared his observations with his father, and to say that Shikaka was impressed would be an understatement, especially as he had managed to keep it a secret from everybody during his whole time at the academy. How about promoting him to special Jonin with focus on Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu? The Sandaime proposed. I've thought about this for a while, as Kakashi kept me informed about Naruto's level. We have a high number of newly promoted Chunin this year. In fact, of the 9 rookies that qualified for the finals, we only have 3 that didn't get promoted, a feat that hasn't been seen in any previous tournaments. With the invasion and the 2 Suna participants, and their brother being captured, there won't be any promotions for them. At the moment, Suna is in a massively bad position. We have all the trump cards in our hands. We could change the rookie teams a little bit around for the next 6 months. Kiba, Ino and Choji could become a team, as their other teammates had been promoted already and will have to take other missions now. If those 3 continue developing like they did since their graduation, they should have good chance to get promoted the next Chunin exams. I also would like to take Sakura under my wing for a while. She got glowing reports from Shizen, and she would make a great second apprentice, as Shizen is good enough to train her own apprentices by now, Tsunade spoke up. With the next few months not being normal in any sense, as we will have to recover from the invasion, it would make sense to teach her as much as possible right now before she goes on to new missions again. We also need most Jonin for other missions right now, so the training of the new Chunin and the remaining Genin would suffer anyway. Why not form the 4 remaining Chunin from that group into one squad and make Naruto the temporary leader of the 3 Genin for C rank and B rank missions? The idea has merit, Tsunade, Kakashi agreed. We could send the Chunin team on mostly B-rank missions, and leading an advanced Genin team on missions and helping them with some training would be good for Naruto's development. With how many missions we have with considerable lesser manpower, that would work. We can also let the new Chunin work with other Genin teams to get them used to leading missions. Of course, we'd first start with C ranks in those cases. We could rotate them around just by seeing which kind of mission it is. I think that would be a good solution. Are there any others that you'd recommend for medical training, Tsunade? Inoichi asked. I'm not sure yet. It would depend on who's interested in learning them. I'll initiate a program to get a medic nin onto each squad we have, but it'll take time to get there. From what I've seen, Hinata definitely has the chakra control needed, and Ino, with her basic knowledge of poisons, could also be a candidate. I'll see if I can't coerce Naruto and Sasuke into at least basic classes. They would profit from that. Even if so far Sakura took care of their injuries, Shino wouldn't be able to learn most techniques thanks to his symbiotic bond with his bugs that eat most of his chakra, and I don't know if Shikamaru would put in the effort needed. Tsunade listed those that could work out in some ways. True. You need to at least want to learn medical jutsus to become efficient in them, as it takes a lot of time, Shikaku agreed. Another thing we need to consider is Tenten Jackanato. She performed really well during the invasion, even if her team didn't qualify for the finals. I think a positive recommendation that will grant her promotion next time around if she makes it into the finals of the Chunin exams, and can then show that she has the skills, would be advisable, Tsunade said. I agree, Kakashi said. Well then, Asuma, you can collect Shikamaru and tell Kurenai to come with Shino and Hinata. I'll call my 3 students so we can promote them all at once. Meeting adjourned. Kakashi sat behind his desk with the Sandaime, and Tsunade standing to his left and right. In front of the desk stood his team, Hinata, Shino, and Shikamaru. Kurenai and Asuma stood behind their respective students. You've all been called here to be informed about your results in the Chunin exams and the invasion after it. Let me start with Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Shikamaru Nara. You 5 have all shown good tactical skills in your fights, as well as a skill level that puts you above a normal genin. It is my pleasure to promote each of you to Chunin, Kakashi said, and Tsunade and the Sandaime handed the vests and certificates over to them. All 5 had smiles on their faces and put their new vests on. Then all eyes rested on Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. During the Chunin exams and following invasion, you've shown exceptional skills and leadership qualities. You managed to capture Suna's Jinchuriki Gaara alive and showed great strategic and tactical abilities in all fights you were in. Thanks to your and Tenten Jackanato's performance while stalling the invaders to completely evacuate the civilians, we didn't suffer any casualties among the civilians. For your outstanding performance, you're hereby promoted to Special Jonin, Kakashi said, and handed Naruto his vest and certificate. Naruto had a true happy smile on his face. Finally he got acknowledgement. Congratulations to all of you, Kakashi said once all of them had put their vests on and had taken the congratulations from their teachers. Now that you aren't genin anymore, your Jonin senseis aren't responsible for your training anymore. It is up to you to improve your abilities, though your senseis will still be available for advice and simply talking about things. There'll also be some changes to your teams. The group of 6 listened intently. Tsunade stepped forward. As some of you may know, I'm going to completely rebuild the way medic nins are trained by the village. The final goal is to have enough medics that each team will have one when they take a mission outside of the village. For that reason, I wish to offer you all the possibility to at least learn some basic skills. Next to that, I would like to take you, Sakura, as my personal apprentice. You've shown great abilities in the area already, and Shizen has praised your intelligence and fast learning from your training under her over the month before the Chunin exam finals, Tsunade said. Really? I would be honored to learn under you, Tsunade-sama. Sakura exclaimed happily. Very good, then be at the hospital tomorrow morning at 8 to start your training. Just a warning, I'm a very strict teacher, Tsunade said. Sakura simply nodded. I'd like to get some medical training as well, Tsunade-sama, Hinata spoke up. But I don't know if my father will allow it. Don't worry, I'll convince him if he gives you trouble. I've wanted to get a Hyuga into the medical program for ages, but your clan always blocked. As I have complete freedom in my recruiting, which was one of the conditions Hokage-sama granted me upon my return and taking over of the program, I can choose whoever I want as long as they're willing to invest the time into the training, Tsunade stated and got a confirming nod by Kakashi. Then I'll gladly enter the program, Hinata said. Good, be at the hospital tomorrow at 9 as well, Tsunade informed her. Those without previous training will work under Shizen first, and if they show enough promise, I'll take over some lessons as well. Hinata nodded, smiling happily. I'm no good at medical techniques. I simply have too much chakra, even if my control is far better than my reserves would let you think. I'm good with basic first aid, Naruto said. I'm just not interested in medical jutsus, even if I know how useful it is from being treated by Sakura, Sasuke said. My goal is catching Itachi and forcing him to finally tell me the truth about the Uchiha massacre. Something doesn't add up there. I'll capture him and wring all information I need out of him. If it turns out he's just an arsehole, I'll kill him after that. If not, I'll hand him over to Konoha's justice. I need to become much stronger before I'd stand a chance against him though, and medical jutsus aren't the way for me to get there. Kakashi was surprised to hear his student's changed goal, but he was very happy about it. At least the probability of him running off to kill Itachi was lower now. Shikamaru and Shino also declined attending the medical program. Good, as you're perhaps aware, the village despite our preparations still lost a large number of ninjas. We still need to take as many missions as before, therefore the teams are being changed a little. Hinata, your starting training for the medical program will take about 2 weeks. For that time you'll be excused from missions. Naruto, Shino, Shikamaru and Sasuke, report for a B-rank mission tomorrow morning at 9. In 2 weeks when Hinata's initial training is over, Naruto, you'll move to taking command over the new Genin team of Kiba Inuzuka, Ino Yamanaka and Choji Akimichi. You'll be leading them in C-rank and low B-rank missions until Asuma Saratobi isn't needed for constant higher-ranked missions anymore, Kakashi informed them. They all nodded. Except for Naruto, you're dismissed, Kakashi said. The 5 Chunin bowed and left the office, telling Naruto to meet them later at the barbecue place for celebrations, which he agreed to. Then he looked at his sensei curiously. Naruto, for the next year, you'll be given a high number of missions where you'll lead a Genin or Chunin team that consists of those around your age to get experience with leading teams. While you have the skill set of a full Jonin, you lack the experience. Prove that you're ready then, and you'll get the promotion to full Jonin then. Contrary to new Chunins, you'll also have some more duties to prepare for. Once you're back from the B-rank mission, you'll be trained in things like withstanding torture, spying in enemy territory, dealing with stress and loss of a member of your team and training of a team. Even if you get your promotion, you won't be given a green Genin team to train until you're at least 16, Kakashi informed him. I understand, sensei, Naruto confirmed. Good, I'll make sure you get the pamphlet with duties of Jonin after you return from your mission. Right now none are left as the storage where they were kept was hit by a fire jutsu in the invasion and burned down. Printing new ones has a low priority right now. I also wanted to inform Tsunade-sama as my advisor of your unique position in the village, Kakashi said, and Naruto nodded, knowing that as one of the Sannin she had a right to know. Do you mean his Jinchuriki status? Tsunade asked. No, what I was talking about is that Naruto is the village's top seal master and also operated under the codename Dark Phoenix, Kakashi revealed. Your Dark Phoenix? Tsunade asked surprised and then chuckled. A great deception you pulled off there. Everybody thinks that we have 2 seal masters besides Jiraiya now. It will make others think more if they dare attack us. Seal masters are tricky to conquer. I can see why you keep his identity a secret. He'd be a major target should the truth be found out. Even more so than being known as Minato's son. The others just nodded. Naruto was then dismissed and went to join the other freshly promoted Chunin. Chapter 34 First Mission. Naruto, Sasuke, Shino and Shikamaru stood in front of the Hokage. They all wore their new vests that symbolized their new rank. Naruto, similarly to his father, wore his trench coat over his attire. He had kept his former clothes and not taken to wearing the standard Konoha uniform for Chunin and Jonin that his sensei wore. Sasuke and Shikamaru wore the uniform now while Shino kept his high-collared shirt under his vest, which he kept open. Good to see you four. The mission you'll be taking today is, as I already told you yesterday, a B rank. We have got information that a pair of missing Nins has been attacking villages along the border to River Country. We don't know which village they are from, but the description of the jutsus they used indicates one of the smaller ninja villages. There were victims of poisoning in the second village that was attacked, and one victim in the fourth village was found with burns from fire jutsus. Otherwise they seem to prefer weapons, Kakashi informed the team. Your job is eliminating the threat. Either capture them if you can, or kill them if they pose too much of a danger. Here is a permission slip for the armory that will enable you to stock up on certain seals. You'll be given chakra storage seals, normal storage scrolls, seals to verify your teammates, and paralysis seals. Naruto is in command with Shikamaru being second in command. The four boys nodded. Be careful and look out if there are more missing Nins in the area. It could be that it's a group that pretends to be smaller than it is. If you come across other missing Nins that don't have anything to do with your mission, I'll leave it to your judgment to see if you can capture them or kill them for their bounties. Now that you're Chunin or, in Naruto's case, Special Jonin, you'll be given a bigger cut from the bounties you bring in for the village. In case something goes wrong, try pinning the blame on another village, preferably IWA, Kakashi told them. Shikamaru and Shino looked surprised at this order. Naruto and Sasuke only nodded. They were already used to that kind of order from their training under the new Hokage. Kakashi had a policy that while things could go wrong, you should never admit fault if there wasn't enough proof of you being the culprit. And if you could blame somebody else, all the better. Successes were to be promoted as being done by Konoha shinobi. Failures were to be hushed up as well as possible. The group was dismissed, and Naruto led them to the armory. After handing over the permission slip to the guard, he quickly collected the necessary seals without any of the others looking at him strangely. They knew that he was the expert on Fuinjutsu among them, and would know which seal was which. He handed the sealing tags over to each of them, and they put them away in their pouches. Naruto told them to meet in half an hour at the gate to get the mission started. The trip to the border of river country took them half a day. They investigated the attacks by questioning eyewitnesses in the villages that had been attacked. They got a few more details than what had been in their briefing from the Hokage. Not only were the attacks done with weapons, poison and fire jutsus, there was also nearly always a dizzy feeling left after the attack was over. It seemed that genjutsu was used as well. From the route of the attacks it seemed as if the attackers always struck in a limited area so far, a stretch of 50 kilometers along the border and never more than 10 kilometers into fire country, meaning that they could retreat back into river country before any help from Konoha could reach the villages. Naruto had Shino send out his bugs to scout if they could find a hideout within the area that they suspected to be the action radius. While the bugs were gone, the four boys started securing important buildings in the villages with the seals that Naruto created. Fire protection seals were among the most important ones to prevent that the attackers could burn down whole villages to cover their escape when they could finally confront them. Shikamaru and Shino worked as one team, Naruto and Sasuke as another. They went through all villages and prepared for an eventual attack. Normally there was an attack around every 3 to 4 weeks, and the last attack had been 2 weeks ago. The attackers always took supplies with them when they hit a village, next to valuables. So far there hadn't been any reports about them kidnapping people, which was a positive thing, as hostages made missions more difficult. Naruto cleared with the officials in river country that in case they came across the attackers, they had permission to pursue them, even if they had to cross the border. It seemed that while river country hadn't been hit as hard as fire country by the group, there had been thefts and small attacks. Therefore the officials wouldn't mind at all if the ninjas from Konoha could get rid of the threat. Shikamaru watched the forest that was close to the walls of the village he was currently at. After 1 week of securing as many buildings as they could, he and Shino had separated and took over watching over one village each. They had been given a kunai from Naruto, which would enable him to teleport to their location immediately if they pushed some chakra into the kunai. It was really incredible how much their classmate could do, and how well he had hidden it all the time. The Flying Thunder God Jutsu was legendary, and said to only be known by the 2nd and 4th Hokages. Now Naruto could use it as well. Shino's bugs hadn't had any success in finding the missing Nin's camp so far, therefore they had all decided that guarding one village each and then calling the others if there was an attack would increase their chances of success a lot. Naruto would first flash to the one that called for backup and leave a number of shadow clones, before flashing to the positions of the other two and bringing them to the attacked village as well. This should enable them to take on the attackers properly. It would at most take 5 minutes to have the whole team assembled and ready to fight. So far his watch had been uneventful. But it was only 2 hours after nightfall. A lot could happen until the morning. Sasuke noticed movement from the cliffside of the village he was guarding. A closer look with his Sharingan activated confirmed that 3 persons were sneaking up to the village walls from a side where no normal village would suspect an attack from. He acted immediately and called Naruto. A second later his teammate was next to him, and he silently informed Naruto of the observations he had made. Naruto created 20 clones to support him, and 2 flashed away to get Shikamaru and Shino. They arrived a few seconds later. The group took the positions they had decided upon previously, and waited until the 3 were close enough to start the surprise attack that clearly was planned. Flashback. Alright, we know that the attackers always come when it's dark outside and from places where it's hard to spot them, Shikamaru commented the collected data. All the villages that have been hit had that in common. Those where little to no cover is available close to the village have so far not been hit. True. In the first village they used to river to get to the village by staying underwater. In the dark they weren't spotted at all and they could attack within the village without anybody being aware that there were intruders at all. They took out the few policemen that the village had and stole whatever they wanted. The villagers only really noticed that anything was wrong when the office of the major went up in flames and the fire guards were called to deal with it. Sasuke agreed. It was similar for the other villages. Unnoticed entry thanks to natural cover, then a diversion, and they left before they were discovered. The only resistance they found was taken out by poison, with weapons or in one case fire, Shino analyzed. They don't seem to be interested in fighting a lot from their method of working. True, it could have many reasons. We don't know how strong they are and which rank they had before they became missing needs. The only reason we can be sure that they are ninjas at all and not normal bandits is that the injuries from fire were caused with chakra and not natural fire. There are no eyewitnesses that could give a proper description of the attackers, but the few that saw them at all were sure that they were able to walk up walls, so they have to at least have had some formal training. The reason for not attacking openly could be that they're too weak to take on large groups, that they are after something in particular that would be harder to get if they didn't infiltrate secretly, and then leave while taking as many useful things as possible, or even that all of this is a distraction for something bigger. Right now we can't really tell, Naruto commented. Well, I think the only way that we can succeed with this mission would be if we caught them in the act, Shikamaru said. The problem is predicting which village they will hit next. There are too many options to cover them all properly. Even if we left a shadow clone of Naruto in each village we suspect to be the next target. True, while my clones can keep up a whole night, one lucky hit and they're down. While I get the memory of a dispelled clone and could act after that, I wouldn't be able to teleport there without a beacon. And I need a charged seal to flash that far. We could do that with any of you. I can give you one of the kunais I use for the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and if you spot the attackers, you can call me by pushing chakra into the seal. I could assemble the whole group there within at most 5 minutes, Naruto said. I've just noticed that with seals that I handed to my clones, it only works for up to 3 kilometers distance for some reason. And we have to cover far more distance than that. That's a good basic plan. I think we should split up and each of us takes one village to guard, Shikamaru said. We will take a kunai each and if we spot the group, we call Naruto and he brings the others over as fast as possible, after leaving a few shadow clones in the other villages just in case. There are 7 villages that meet the criteria that we have come up with. We can cover 4 of them. Thanks to 2 of them only being 3 kilometers apart, we can place Naruto and a clone in those, meaning he can cover them both. The 2 where we can't place one of us, we leave under the watch of 20 of Naruto's clones. They should be able to at least stall for a while until we can get there. Even if Naruto can't easily flash there, we could set up a net of his Flying Thunder God seals to make the time we need to get there as short as possible. That could work. I could be hopping from one seal to the other to get to the place. I would only have to charge the final seal with enough chakra to allow me to return to it with one of you before I get the other 2. If I charge a seal like that, I can return to it from wherever I am up to 20 minutes after charging it, Naruto agreed. They spent the next hour deciding on where to place the Flying Thunder God seals and which villages would be guarded by a group of clones and which by one of them. Flashback end. The first attack was Shino's. His bugs had burrowed themselves in the ground that was directly in front of the 3 that were sneaking up to the village. Unnoticed to them, a number of bugs attached themselves to each and started eating their chakra. When they were 5 meters away from the walls, Naruto triggered a flash bomb, which allowed Shikamaru to send his shadow out to catch the attackers in his shadow possession jutsu. 2 of them were caught, the last one managed to jump away. Shino sent out more bugs to take the 2 caught ones out while Naruto and Sasuke engaged the last one. Pesky Konoha Nins, you won't get me, the man declared before he sent a fireball at them. Sasuke countered with a larger one while Naruto used the cover of the 2 fireballs to throw one of his special kunai towards the man's position. When the explosion of both balls occurred, he flashed behind the man and attacked 2 nerve clusters with his taijutsu. One was a perfect hit, the other slightly off as the man attempted to dodge. Well, at least his right leg wasn't working anymore and the left arm was slightly immobilized. The man fell to the ground from the leg giving out, but he managed to avoid getting hit while being down by rolling to the side. Naruto continued his attack and finally managed to slap a paralysis seal onto the man. He then sealed off the man's chakra and told Sasuke to keep watch while he got the prepared prisoner scrolls out. They weren't sure if these were all of the group, so they would need to interrogate their prisoners before they could be sure that the mission was a complete success. That wasn't so hard, Sasuke commented. They weren't strong and were completely caught off guard. I know. It's suspicious. They shouldn't have been able to be that successful if they were so easy to take out, Naruto agreed. From what I saw, they can only be average genin level in abilities. Let's go and see what Shikamaru and Shino think about this, Sasuke suggested and Naruto nodded. The next morning, after having put the 3 prisoners into the scrolls to keep them secure, Naruto let the one that he and Sasuke had caught out and tied him to a chair for interrogation. The man struggled, but the wire used for the job held up. You Konoha scum won't get anything from me, the man exclaimed angrily. Especially not brats like you. Is that so? Naruto asked calmly and used his ninjutsu variant of imitating the Kyuubi's killing intent, making the man shake in fear. Now we can do this the easy way, and you tell us all we want to know. Then we'll simply send you and your companions to prison, where you'll spend time for your crimes and can hope to one day get out again. Or we do this the hard way. I'll show you why you have every reason to shake like you do now. You get probably maimed in the process and spend the rest of your life, as short as that might be, in a prison if you don't get put out of your misery. Neither Shino nor Shikamaru had ever seen how Naruto interrogated prisoners and were honestly shocked to see this side of their comrade. Were they in the place of their captive, they didn't know if they could stand up to that pressure. Naruto simply waited for the man to break under the intent. Nobody below Jonin level could normally stand up to the feeling that the presence of an angry Biju created, Jinchuriki being the exception. They were used to that. Like predicted, the man broke within 5 minutes and sang like a canary. He and his 2 comrades were part of a group of 6 that had originally been ninjas that Orochimaru had lured to Oto. After the death of their leader in the Konoha invasion, many had deserted the village and were now attacking villages to get what they needed to survive. He also revealed the hideout they had set up and who the other 3 were. He was the second strongest of the group and second in command. The leader was a former Chunin, while he had been borderline Chunin in strength. The others were at most Genin level. They hadn't been in Oto for long, therefore they didn't know much about Orochimaru and his activities or many of the bases. He could tell them though that Oto was less a village than a number of hidden bases all over Rice Paddy's country. The man slumped in relief when Naruto dropped his jutsu and sealed the man back into the prisoner scroll. The interrogations of the other 2 didn't give them any new information, and therefore they were sealed back soon. We'll attack the hideout tonight. Shino, sent your bugs to scout the place. We need to know what terrain we'll be fighting at to surprise them, Naruto ordered, and Shino nodded. The bugs flew off towards the place where the hideout was located. The attack was actually very easy for the Konoha team. Shino had told them everything his bugs had relayed to him, and Shikamaru had come up with an effective strategy again. Naruto sneaked into the hideout, which was under the roots of a tree, where the group had found a cave that they had enlarged over time, making sure that nothing on the outside pointed at this fact. Transformed as a mouse, he put some drugs into the water supplies of the 3 they found, 1 teenage girl and 2 men, and simply waited for them to drink some water. The drugs simply made them sleepy, and while they were keeping an eye out for possible enemies and the second group that was scheduled to return sometime during the night, they were always careful to not have anybody follow them to their hideout. They didn't expect an attack from the inside. After 2 hours of waiting, all 3 of them were fast asleep. Naruto undid his transformation and tied them all up after taking away all their weapons, money and hidden equipment. In one case he had to empty a blood seal on the upper arm of a man. But by cutting the man's hand and putting the blood on the seal it was easy. The others were called inside and they set to work, sealing up all the things they found in the cave. There were things like food, weapons, some containers with poison, jewelry, money and scrolls. It would be up to the Hokage to sort through these things and give those that could be clearly connected to a person back to their rightful owners. The weapons would most likely go to the Konoha armory or be sold in shops in case of basic weapons like kunai, shuriken and senbons. There weren't any truly special weapons among them anyway. The most impressive was a knife that was chakra conductive, which Shino kept for himself. The 3 ninjas were sealed in 3 new prisoner scrolls, and then the groups set off to return to Konoha to report the success of the mission to the Hokage. None of them had been hurt. They got the mission done within 2 weeks of time, most of that being spent with investigations and with 6 prisoners that could perhaps give some more information on things that the team had questioned them about so far. Naruto and his team stood in front of the Hokage. Naruto was reporting the success of the B-rank mission in a brief summary. He would have to write a more thorough report later on. Very good work, you 4. I'm very pleased with this success. Your payment will be on your accounts by tomorrow, and you have the next 2 days off. After that I have another mission for you. You're dismissed, Kakashi said, and the 4 bowed before leaving. Once they were out of the tower, they separated and went home. Naruto made a shadow clone that got the task to write the report, while he went to Ichiraku's to get a nice few bowls of ramen for the first successful B-rank mission that he had led.